Azusa confidently walks toward her office building. As she makes her way inside, several employees glance at her, recognizing her as someone whose proposals and materials often win awards. At the entrance gate, she scans her ID, but the gate doesn't budge when she tries to walk through. Looking down, she realizes it isn't her ID that she scanned, but a business card for plumbing services. Meanwhile, in the publicity department, Kosuke is stressing over the pile of work waiting to be completed when Azusa enters and heads to her desk. Several coworkers greet her as others continue filing into the office. Once the greetings die down, everyone quickly gets to work. Minori approaches Azusa with a concern since one of the influencers they had contacted for a promotion is no longer available. She asks if Azusa has a solution. Azusa coldly reminds Minori that it's her responsibility to handle that issue, and that she should have come prepared with a proposal rather than asking for ideas. Still, Azusa suggests that if the influencer can't participate, they could use a stand-in, since several other talents are available for the project. She then walks over to Kosuke, handing him the documents she corrected on his behalf so he can forward them to the planning department. Noticing his messy desk, she scolds him, prompting Kosuke to hurriedly clean up. Azusa is soon called over by their boss, Iji. As she heads his way, two coworkers gush about how reliable she is, though Kosuke mutters that Azusa is actually quite scary. The girls reluctantly agree, admitting she could stand to be nicer. When Azusa reaches Iji, he informs her about a new hire who will be joining the department. He wants her to train him. A flicker of uncertainty passes through Azusa's eyes, but Iji reassures her that the newcomer is talented and should adapt quickly. He adds that it would benefit the company if someone as accomplished as Azusa trained him. Azusa smiles at the compliment and accepts the task, though inwardly she laments the situation. She has worked hard to cultivate an aloof and distant image, specifically to avoid being invited to after-work drinking sessions. Unfortunately, Iji seems oblivious to this and continues to believe she gets along well with everyone. The thought makes her even gloomier, though she resolves to remain professional. Before she can dwell on it further, an energetic voice greets the department. Turning, Azusa sees the new hire Yu greet Eiji. Catching her watching him, Yu apologizes for interrupting their conversation. Eiji introduces them, prompting Yu to politely introduce himself to Azusa. Azusa coldly greets Yu back, though inwardly she can't help but gush over how boyish and charming he seems. Still, she refuses to show her emotions, knowing Eiji is entrusting her with the responsibility of teaching Yu everything she knows. Gazing at him, she quietly swears to herself that she'll do her best to train him, despite her poor communication skills. Azusa brings Yu to the merchandising room and explains that the company originally started as a game developer, but has since expanded into other industries such as apparel, real estate, and more. She emphasizes that because the company covers such a wide range of businesses, their department is constantly handling multiple projects at once. She then quickly walks him through the different parts of the building, their desks, the kitchen, the copy machine, the nearest bathroom, and even a free snack area. Feeling accomplished, she believes she's managed to show him everything important. They dive straight into work, but soon Yu hesitantly calls for her attention, embarrassed that he doesn't know what his tasks are for the day. Azusa realizes she got carried away with the tour and completely forgot to explain his actual duties. Regaining her composure, she firmly tells him that he'll be joining her in a business meeting, and that from now, his role is to shadow her and observe. Before they leave, she insists they practice exchanging business cards as it's an essential part of professional etiquette. Azusa attempts to demonstrate, but in trying to force open her card holder, she accidentally spills its entire contents across the floor. Flustered by her own clumsiness, she freezes as Yu quickly gathers the scattered cards and hands them back to her politely. As planned, Azusa and Yu greet their guests at the company entrance and escort them to the meeting room. She asks if it's all right for Yu to join, and he introduces himself smoothly, offering his business card just as she had shown him earlier. She begins her presentation. Outwardly, it appears flawless, but inside she's rattled by Yu's attentive gaze, which makes her even more self-conscious. The meeting proves to be a tough one for her as she spends the entire time battling her nerves. After the meeting, Yu compliments Azusa on how professional she looked, though she feels mentally exhausted. She realizes it's almost lunchtime and wonders if it's proper for her, as the senior, to invite him out. She begins to smile to herself while thinking of a nice restaurant they could go to. Yu notices the smile, but is startled when her expression suddenly shifts into panic. In her inner monologue, Azusa frets about whether inviting him to lunch would be considered harassment. She also worries about appearing cold or unapproachable if she doesn't invite him. Her anxiety spirals further as she worries about what kind of small talk she could manage during the meal. Yu, noticing her troubled look, doesn't comment on it. Flustered, Azusa abruptly announces that she has another meeting and tells him to go ahead with his lunch without her. She hurries off, trying to hide the redness of her face. Once she's put enough distance between them, she slides down against the wall and sighs, wondering how she's supposed to mentor him when her personality makes even simple interactions so difficult. By the end of the day, Yu approaches her to say he's heading home. Azusa acknowledges it, then silently scolds herself for sounding so curt. Before leaving, Yu thanks her for looking out for him, admitting he had been very nervous about his first day. Azusa tells him it's normal for newcomers to make mistakes and reassures him that he can always rely on her. She offers him a few more words of praise before he leaves. As he exits, his other coworkers also stop to chat with him about his first day. That evening, as Azusa walks the dark streets home, she feels guilty. She realizes she spent more time worrying about her own image than focusing on Yu's feelings. She resolves that tomorrow she'll be more attentive and straightforward with him. The next day, Yu's chatting casually with coworkers when Azusa appears, coldly telling them to move out of her way. They immediately make room for her to pass. Azusa sits at her desk, inwardly proud of herself for greeting everyone normally, completely unaware that she actually came across as intimidating. Later, she assigns Yu to draft a proposal for a manga studio, handing him samples of her own past work for reference. As Yu dives into the task, Azusa vows that today will be the day she finally invites him to lunch. When Yu later asks her to review his work, she points out several mistakes and tells him to revise those sections. Before he can get started, she adds firmly that he should make the revisions after lunch. Azusa decides this is the perfect opportunity to finally invite Yu to lunch, but she doesn't notice he has already stood up to get his food, only to spot him returning to his desk with a cup of instant noodles. She immediately scolds him for eating something so unhealthy, but Yu explains that he's on a budget. Azusa chooses not to argue further and turns away, feeling guilty that she missed her timing and may have sounded too harsh, especially since she didn't know about his financial situation. Yu, however, notices the dejected look on her face. At a diner, Azusa eats her own lunch while feeling inadequate as a mentor. She recalls how her own mentor once brought her to the same restaurant, sharing words of wisdom and encouragement over a meal. The memory only deepens her sense of failure. Her phone ringing pulls her out of her thoughts. She quickly finishes her food before calling Ritsu back. On her walk to the office, she discusses the tasks still left to handle. Ritsu thanks her, then advises her to practice making small talk more often. He also brings up the collaboration cafe they worked on previously, feeling confident that the cafe will reach out with another project soon. Azusa hums in agreement, noting that such a project would be good training for Yu. Ritsu is amused to learn that Azusa now has a mentee. He teases her to go easy on the rookie, knowing full well that her communication skills aren't her strong suit. When Azusa mentally argues that she did fine today, Ritsu bluntly tells her that her usual short replies don't count as actual conversation or even an attempt. Watching from his office, he observes Yu and warns Azusa that younger employees these days won't hesitate to switch jobs if they feel unsupported. Azusa immediately worries that Yu might leave because of her poor mentoring. Ritsu suggests she try reading a self-help book, but Azusa frowns at the idea, insisting she doesn't need someone else's success story to tell her how to improve. With that, she ends the call and returns to the office. As the sun sets, the publicity department wraps up for the day. Azusa finishes her own tasks and heads home, stopping by a bookstore to pick up several self-help titles about communication and mentorship. Back in her apartment, she realizes she forgot to buy dinner. Opening the fridge, she finds nothing and settles for cup noodles. She scolds herself for eating the same thing she had chastised Yu about, though consoles herself that at least she's pairing it with vegetable juice. Diving into the books, she discovers the first rule of being a successful boss is to greet everyone with energy and a smile. Remembering her cold morning greeting, she realizes she had done the exact opposite. To practice, Azusa grabs a small mirror and begins testing out her smile and greetings. However, her own reflection looks so stiff and unsettling that she quickly gives up, deciding to move on to the next piece of advice. The book suggests that instead of being strict, she should nurture her subordinate with praise. The advice confuses her since she knows she'll eventually have to correct Yu's mistakes. Leaning back on the couch, she begins to wonder if she's really cut out to be a mentor at all. Her thoughts are interrupted when she remembers the cup noodles she left sitting out. Checking on them, she finds they're overcooked. Saddened, she breaks her chopsticks and digs in. The next morning, Azusa wakes up and realizes she overslept. Panicked, she hurries to get ready, worrying about the impression it would make on Yu if she were late. Fortunately, she manages to speed through her routine and arrives at the office perfectly composed. There she spots Yu, who greets her warmly. Azusa prepares to return the greeting but freezes when she overhears Akemi and Minori whispering about her. They say she's strict and scary, and that the only reason she gets away with her lack of social skills is because she's so good at her job. The words sting, and Azusa drops her tablet, revealing sticky notes filled with reminders about communication. Yu quickly gathers them up and carefully hands the tablet back to her. As Azusa takes it, Yu catches a glimpse of the hurt expression she can't quite hide. She quickly composes herself and briskly tells him they should start their day. But before she can leave, Yu walks towards the two gossiping coworkers. With an easy expression, he tells them how lucky he feels to be under Azusa's guidance because he's already seen her kind side. Akemi and Minori are startled, realizing Azusa overheard their gossip. Yu then returns to Azusa's side and apologizes for overstepping. Azusa stubbornly turns away, declaring that she isn't going to thank him, before quietly whispering a soft thank you. As they walk toward their apartment, Azusa awkwardly tries to ask if he wants to have lunch together. Yu, missing the hint, simply replies that he'll have noodles again, though this time with a veggie stick to make it healthy. Everyone in the meeting room listens attentively as Azusa presents her plans for an upcoming collaboration cafe. One of their games, Racing Girls, will be hosting a maid cafe event where the characters will appear dressed as maids. Meanwhile, the cafe's interior will be redesigned to resemble the game's map, giving guests an immersive experience. Yu watches from the side, admiring how composed and professional Azusa looks as she delivers her presentation. After the meeting ends, Azusa and Yu escort their guests to the building's exit. Their partners express excitement for the project, saying the last collaboration was a huge success that brought in plenty of new fans. Once the guests leave, Azusa sternly tells Yu that he'll be participating in the collaboration cafe as well. She instructs him to review her project plans and complete several documents, using her previous work as a reference. As Azusa turns to go back inside, she silently vows that today will be the day she finally invites Yu to lunch. However, when she scans her ID at the gate, it's rejected, indicating that she used the wrong card. Later in the office, Azusa observes Yu as he plays Racing Girls. Yu glances at her and asks if she actually plays the games she manages. Azusa confirms that she does, explaining that it helps her understand their customers better by experiencing the gameplay herself. What she doesn't tell him is that she genuinely enjoys playing games. For focusing on Yu, she instructs him to keep practicing before finalizing his own proposal. Following her advice, Yu starts a race but crashes almost immediately. Azusa, deciding to demonstrate, asks for his phone, secretly relieved that her gaming skills might finally be useful in mentoring her junior. Before joining the company, she had been a hardcore gamer and even worked part-time as a game tester during college. Even now, she still chooses gaming over social outings. Taking Yu's phone, she starts a race but quickly finds it more challenging than expected. She realizes the difficulty comes from playing on a phone instead of with a controller, and the unfamiliar controls throw her off. As she instinctively leans and sways with the turns, she doesn't notice she's at the edge of the couch until she topples off. Both Yu and Azusa are shocked by the fall. Determined to recover her pride, she insists on another round. Wanting to ease her embarrassment, Yu suggests they switch to versus mode for practice. As they return to their desks, Azusa still can't shake off her embarrassment from earlier. They had sluggishly raced each other on a beginner course, and instead of showing off her gaming skills, she had only managed to look unreliable. While she's still mulling over the incident, her deskmates start making lunch plans, and Azusa realizes this might be the perfect moment to finally invite Yu out. She glances at him, but the words barely leave her mouth. He looks so focused on his monitor that she convinces herself now isn't the right time after all. Before she can decide what to do, a colleague calls her over for help. Azusa quickly stands and assists them, pushing her thoughts aside. Meanwhile, Yu gets a snag in his work and turns to ask her a question, only to find her seat empty. Spotting her helping someone in front of him, he waits for her to return. But just as he's about to call out to her, their section head summons her, and she heads off immediately once she's sure her coworker can manage without her. A nearby office mate invites Yu to lunch, saying there's something he wants to discuss with him. Azusa, catching bits of their conversation, mentally scolds herself for missing her chance yet again. She tries to refocus on the task assigned by their section head, though her mind keeps drifting back to Yu. To her quiet relief, Yu declines the offer, explaining that he brought his own lunch. Azusa feels oddly comforted by that, even though she's still distracted during her meeting. Once she returns to her desk, she resolves to finally ask him out for lunch, only to remember that he'd already said he packed his meal. She considers inviting him for tomorrow's lunch in advance, but thinks it might sound too forward, and she doesn't want him to feel pressured. Just as she's debating what to do, she hears the rustle of a plastic bag hitting a desk. Looking over, she finds Yu pulling out a cup of instant noodles. Azusa frowns, so Yu explains that he's on a budget but promises he'll eat better once he saves up next month. Swallowing her hesitation, Azusa abruptly declares that she's treating him to lunch. Yu starts to refuse, but she turns back sharply, insisting that it's her responsibility as his mentor to make sure he stays healthy and performs well. Finding no room to argue, Yu finally agrees. Finally seated together at the restaurant, Azusa allows herself a small, proud smile. She has finally managed to invite Yu out for lunch. As she waits for their meals, she fondly recalls her own mentor and how she was taught to carry herself properly as a subordinate. Lost in thought, she doesn't notice Yu quietly placing some paper towels and a glass of water in front of her. Simple gestures she had meant to teach him herself. Yu notices her troubled expression and is about to ask if something's wrong, but the waitress arrives to take their orders. When their meals come, Azusa stares at his food in shock. Yu has ordered only a salad. She scolds him as she places a generous portion of her steak on top of his salad before he can object. Azusa frowns, thinking lunch is not starting well, but when Yu takes a bite, his expression lights up at how good the food is. He thanks her and admits that it's his first proper meal in a while. Without thinking, she asks why he is on such a tight budget, and immediately regrets it since it seems too personal. Yu hesitates, then admits that he bought an expensive model kit and decided to cut back on his meals because of it. To his surprise, Azusa doesn't seem judgmental at all. Instead, she calmly tells him that it isn't wrong to indulge in the things one loves, but that he shouldn't neglect his health in the process. Yu nods, promising to do better, while Azusa quietly promises herself to stop pulling all-nighters to play new games. To lighten the mood, Azusa tells him that they should practice the racing game again to make their proposal stronger. Later that night, Azusa spends hours playing the racing game until she finally earns first place using the mobile controls. Her stomach growls in protest, reminding her she has yet to eat. Opening her fridge, she finds only 2 eggs and no oden noodles, so she settles for instant curry noodles and a vegetable drink. Looking at her food, she realizes she has no right to lecture Yu about healthy meals when she's been doing the same thing herself. The next day, Azusa walks to the office noticeably more tired than usual. She had stayed up all night playing Racing Girls. Despite her fatigue, she feels happy with herself because now Yu can ask her anything about the game, and she'll be able to answer confidently. At work, Azusa observes Yu sitting beside her. He seems troubled by something, which makes her fondly remember how she was when she was still a newbie. She recalls that her mentor's advice was to always ask questions when needed. Her mentor pointing it out made her senior much more approachable. Deciding to do the same, she sternly tells Yu that he should ask her questions immediately whenever he has one. Yu thanks her for checking up on him, but reassures her that he is fine. The response throws Azusa off a little, as she had planned to help him today. Returning to work, she glances at Yu, expecting him to ask her something, but he doesn't. She tries to hover near him, pretending to get water and walk back, but Yu doesn't say anything. Eventually, Azusa tries to coax him into asking a question, but Yu once again politely declines the offer. Azusa moves to sit by the couches, wondering why Yu hasn't approached her yet. She begins to worry that she may have created an unwelcoming atmosphere and that yesterday's lunch wasn't enough to make her seem approachable. She decides that the solution is simple. All she needs to do is invite him out again today. If she shows how reliable she can be and makes sure he eats properly, he might feel comfortable enough to come to her for help. With her plan in mind, Azusa walks back into the office determined to ask Yu out for lunch. However, she overhears him chatting with their coworkers about lunch plans. Yu agrees to go with them and even suggests inviting Azusa along, but the others dismiss the idea. They tell Yu that Azusa never wants to join them, and that she rarely attends company parties either. Yu looks surprised but still agrees to eat with them. Hearing their footsteps approach the exit, Azusa quickly runs away, hoping they haven't noticed her eavesdropping. Once the elevator doors close, she peeks out from behind the corner, feeling dejected once again for failing to invite him to lunch. Azusa decides to spend her lunch break alone at a nearby park. As she eats a modest meal, she reflects on how quickly Yu has been learning and how capable he already is. The thought worries her because if he keeps picking things up this fast, he might soon find her lessons unnecessary. She also realizes that she hasn't exactly shown him any of her better sides lately. Before she can dwell on it further, her phone rings. It's a call from one of their business partners, and she immediately answers in her usual composed tone. Meanwhile, Yu and his coworkers happen to pass by the park on their way back to the office. Yu spots Azusa on the phone, working diligently even during her break. He pauses to watch her for a moment, quietly impressed, until his coworkers call out to him, and he hurries to catch up. By the end of the day, Azusa notices that Yu is still at his desk. She tries to offer help, but he insists that he only needs to polish the proposal and that everything else is already handled. At the building's exit, Azusa scans her card but hesitates to fully leave the gate. Guilt tugs at her for leaving Yu to work alone, so she turns back toward their department. When she sees him focused on his desk, she suddenly feels shy about interrupting. Trying to sneak in quietly, she's quickly caught by Yu. Flustered, she explains that she came back because she'd forgotten to finish some tasks, then sits down and boots up her computer. Time passes, and Azusa eventually reminds Yu that they should head home since the last train is about to leave. Yu refuses, saying he's nearly done, but thanks her for worrying about him, and tells her she should leave ahead of him. Then, almost shyly, he admits that he finds her proposal inspiring, not just the writing itself, but her entire work ethic. He wants to create something she'll be proud of. When he turns to face her, he's startled to see tears welling in her eyes. He hurriedly offers her tissues, and Azusa tells him that while it's good to work hard, he shouldn't push himself too much. She adds that he's doing really well, even far better than she did when she first started. Yu thanks her for being considerate and for treating him to lunch, admitting that he knows she prefers to eat alone. Panicking, Azusa blurts out that she actually wanted to eat with him, that it wasn't a burden at all. Realizing what she just said, her face turns bright red and she hides her embarrassment by sternly telling him to finish his work. When Yu finally wraps up, Azusa books them a taxi, but the booking process takes so long that Yu falls asleep while waiting. Azusa quietly drapes her coat over him and even ties her scarf around his neck. Yu wakes up startled by how bundled he is, while Azusa just smiles to herself, content as they wait for their ride. Azusa and Yu are invited to discuss plans for an upcoming drinking party since one of their coworkers is about to get married. Azusa feels a pang of dread at the mention of marriage, remembering how her mother has been pressuring her to meet someone lately. Their boss explains that he plans to combine the wedding celebration with Yu's welcome party into one event. He adds that he wants Yu to organize it, saying it will be a good opportunity for him to learn how to entertain guests. He also asks Azusa to guide Yu in choosing a suitable restaurant and finding a gift for the couple. Azusa agrees but inwardly worries. She rarely socializes with her office mates and has no idea where people would want to eat, much less what kind of gift to buy. Once their boss leaves the preparations to them, Azusa, trying to sound confident, declares that they will start planning right away. The two soon find themselves in a luxury goods store. Yu looks around curiously, wondering what kind of gift would be best. Azusa explains that gift giving is an important skill, not only in the office but also in learning how to navigate society. As Yu browses through the displays, Azusa secretly pulls out her phone and searches for what would be an appropriate gift. She curses her lack of experience, since her introverted nature has led her to skip so many weddings that she can't remember the last one she attended. She even recalls how she's never been invited to recent weddings because she never showed much interest before. Still, she's determined to guide Yu properly, even if she's just as clueless as he is. Her eyes soon land on a shelf filled with mugs. One particular set catches her attention, a pair of couple mugs with adorable cat designs. Yu notices the faint sparkle in her eyes as she picks one up for a closer look. Curious, he approaches and asks if she thinks the mugs would make a good gift. His sudden proximity startles Azusa, causing her to fumble and drop one of the mugs, which shatters on the floor. Yu immediately apologizes for startling her, but Azusa insists it isn't his fault. When a sales lady comes over to check, Azusa can't help putting herself down over her usual clumsiness. She tries to insist on paying for the broken mug, but Yu asks if they have another pair available since he'd like to buy them. Azusa protests, saying she should at least pay for them, but Yu simply explains that he liked the design and intends to use them himself. Before she can argue further, he's already at the counter paying for the set. Azusa feels defeated and vows to find the perfect present for the couple. Searching through her phone, she prides herself on her research skills, honed through years of obsessing over games. After Yu completes his purchase, she confidently announces that he should follow her since she's already thought of the perfect gift. Once they finish shopping, they stop for coffee. Yu thanks Azusa for the wonderful idea of getting the couple a pair of towels, saying he hopes they'll enjoy how soft they are. He then adds that he's surprised Azusa takes her coffee black. Putting on a confident air, Azusa explains that adding anything to coffee dilutes its original flavor. Yu looks impressed but admits he prefers his coffee with a little sugar. He takes a sip and Azusa glances at his cup longingly, wondering why she had to sound so pretentious. She recalls her mentor always drinking black coffee in front of her and had hoped to imitate her sophistication. Convincing herself that coffee is just meant to keep her awake, Azusa takes a sip but immediately screams as the bitterness overwhelms her. Yu, noticing her reaction, offers to get cream or sugar, to which she quickly replies that he should bring both. After adjusting her drink, her mood brightens until she realizes she just embarrassed herself in front of her junior. Trying to recover her composure, Azusa shifts the topic, saying they should move on to the next task, reserving a venue for the party. With the celebration scheduled just before Golden Week, she worries most places might already be fully booked. They take out their phones to look up good restaurants. As Yu talks about possible venues, Azusa finds herself distracted, quietly observing him instead. Rather than focusing on his suggestions, she starts wondering if Yu likes to drink and begins thinking about the little things she's learned about him so far. Noticing her gaze, Yu tries to get her attention, but Azusa abruptly asks if he enjoys drinking. Yu admits he isn't really into alcohol. Azusa claps her hands in delight, happy to find they share the same sentiment. Catching herself, she calms down and tells him there's no need to force himself because drinking tastes better when shared with people one feels comfortable around. Yu thanks her for saying that, relieved that he doesn't have to pretend. He then mentions he's heard that Azusa usually skips drinking parties. Sensing the concern in his tone, Azusa reassures him that she'll attend because this party also celebrates his welcome to the company. Azusa advises Yu that it's perfectly fine to decline a drinking invitation if he doesn't feel like going. Yu feels reassured by her words but suddenly admits that he'd like to drink with her someday. The admission catches Azusa off guard and she blurts out that she doesn't see any merit in drinking with him. She instantly regrets her words, scolding herself internally for sounding so cold when Yu had only tried to be friendly. Unable to find a way to take it back, she hurriedly grabs her phone and tells him they need to reserve a restaurant as soon as possible. The next morning, Azusa walks to work still weighed down by guilt for turning Yu down. When she arrives at her desk, she notices the cat-patterned mug placed beside her computer. She asks Yu about it, and he nervously explains that he only really needs one mug. He adds that he noticed how much she seemed to like that particular set, so he decided to give the other one to her as a token of gratitude. Touched and flustered, Azusa awkwardly tells him that she'll use it as a toothbrush holder. That evening, the beer party finally takes place. Azusa is tasked with giving the opening toast. She keeps it brief, telling everyone they should blame their boss for making her do it since she doesn't have any sentimental words prepared. She congratulates her coworker on her engagement and raises her glass to lead the cheer. Sitting beside the newly engaged coworker and their boss, Azusa is thanked for helping set everything up and for finally joining a company event. When her boss offers to pour her a drink, she politely refuses, instead pouring one for him out of respect while filling her own glass with tea. She glances toward Yu, who's seated with another group, and quietly worries about how he's doing. Soon, Kaoru approaches Yu, asking how he's getting along with Azusa. Yu glances in her direction and smiles before replying that they're actually getting along quite well. Kaoru admits he was worried since most newbies are usually scared of her. Yu says he's grateful to be under her guidance since she corrects and supports him whenever he needs it. Satisfied with the answer, Kaoru pats Yu on the back and encourages him to relax and enjoy the night. Azusa watches the interaction from her table, a worried look in her eyes. Eventually, she stands and approaches them. Both men are startled when she suddenly appears behind them, takes Yu's drink, and downs it in one go. Speaking firmly, she declares that Yu is her mentee, and she can't just sit around letting him drink whatever is handed to him, unless she tests it first. Amused by how she's finally socializing, Kaoru laughs and pours her another drink. Azusa eventually sits down between Kaoru and Yu, already feeling the effects of the alcohol. Minore offers them some food, and when Kaoru tries to pour Yu another drink, Azusa quickly pours a glass of tea and shoves it in front of him, insisting he drink that instead. Kaoru tells her she should just let Yu drink a little. Embarrassed, Azusa excuses herself and heads to the bathroom. After a while, Yu notices she hasn't returned. He glances out the door and finds her outside. Yu goes to check on her, and she tries to act fine but eventually admits that she's feeling a little sick. She tells him she'll head home ahead, and Yu offers to grab her belongings. When Yu returns to the room, the others express their disappointment that Azusa is leaving, especially since this was the first time she had ever joined one of their parties. Kaoru insists that Azusa can go home, but Yu should stay and continue drinking with them. Yu tries to slip away to deliver Azusa's things, but his coworkers won't let him go. Just then, Azusa re-enters the room with a stern expression. She announces that she received a call from a client dissatisfied with Yu's performance and that she needs to discuss it with him immediately. Yu looks confused at first since he doesn't recall making any mistakes, but when he catches Azusa's subtle glance, he realizes she's giving him a chance to escape. Playing along, he apologizes to the group and quickly excuses himself to handle work matters. As they walk home from the party, Azusa apologizes for making a scene and for dragging him away early. Yu tells her he's actually grateful since he didn't really want to drink in the first place. Relieved, Azusa still looks pale, so Yu suggests they rest before continuing. Sitting on a nearby bench, Azusa hesitantly asks if Yu finds her a scary mentor. She explains that she noticed him looking nervous during the party and wondered if she was the cause. Yu admits he was nervous, but only because it was his first office party, so it had nothing to do with her. After a brief moment of silence, Azusa slowly puts on a smile and tells Yu that taking slow, deep breaths can help whenever he feels nervous. Yu smiles back and says he doesn't think she's scary at all. In fact, she's been kind to him the entire time. He fondly recalls the first time they met when he was nervously rehearsing for his interview and Azusa happened to spot him. She had told him to take calm, steady breaths and treat the interview as a chance to get to know the company. He thanked her then and had been curious about her ever since. Suddenly, Azusa stands from her seat and begins walking ahead. Surprised, Yu blurts out that he'd like to share a drink with her someday. To his shock, she accepts in a playful tone, admitting that she wants to teach him many things and learn from him too. Yu's spirits lift at her response, but his relief quickly turns to worry when he notices her steps becoming unsteady. Before he can react, Azusa nearly collapses, the alcohol finally catching up to her. The next day, Azusa scolds Yu for not taking a shower. He apologizes, explaining that after escorting her home, he missed the last train and ended up staying at a friend's place, where he fell asleep right away. She feels guilty hearing his story until her eyes land on a faint lipstick stain on his shirt. Jumping to conclusions, she immediately assumes he stayed at a girlfriend's house. Kaoru notices it too and points it out. Before Yu can explain, Kaoru has already walked off, convinced that Yu has a girlfriend. Unable to contain her curiosity, Azusa demands an explanation. Flustered, Yu insists that the lipstick stain came from her when he helped her into the taxi the previous night. Azusa's face turns bright red. Mortified, she insists that he take off his shirt so she can buy him a new one, but Yu quickly pulls back because she's trying to undress him in the middle of the office. Before the situation can get any more awkward, their boss calls for them. He asks if the two of them can take his place on a business trip to Okinawa during Golden Week. On the plane ride to Okinawa, Azusa reminds Yu that they have a full schedule ahead of them. Yu gives her a confident smile, promising to do his best. Azusa then turns her gaze toward the sea below, instantly mesmerized by the sparkling blue water. When they land, a company representative greets them and informs them that they will be carpooling to the shooting location. The car ride is lively, filled with chatter among the shooting team. Amid the conversations, Yu reviews his notes, and Azusa quietly observes him until they arrive at their destination. The photo shoot begins smoothly. The model Nashiko easily gets into rhythm, making the shoot feel effortless. Yu, in charge of filming the behind-the-scenes footage, asks Azusa if they're allowed to record during breaks. Azusa confirms that they already have permission, but reminds him to inform anyone he plans to film. Yu then questions why Azusa herself is in a swimsuit, assuming only Nashiko would wear one. With an air of pride, Azusa explains that it would be impolite to let Nashiko be the only one dressed that way, so she decided to join in so things wouldn't be awkward. Yu, flustered, replies that it really isn't necessary since swimsuit modeling is part of Nashiko's job. When he notices Azusa's expression falter in embarrassment, he quickly takes it back, admitting he doesn't really know anything about swimsuit shoot etiquette. Suddenly, a gust of wind blows Nashiko's sun hat into the sea. Without hesitation, Azusa dives after it and manages to retrieve it. She gives everyone a confident smile as she holds it up victoriously. When she returns to shore, she hands the hat to an assistant who thanks her, and Yu immediately offers her a towel. Azusa refuses, opting to let herself dry naturally as she proudly declares that it was a good idea to wear a swimsuit after all. Yu says that he'll wear one too next time they have a swimsuit shoot. Realizing how excited she must have sounded earlier, Azusa suddenly becomes self-aware. Just then, a staff member approaches and showers Azusa with compliments about her figure. When he reaches out to touch her arm, something stirs in Yu and he lets out a sound to interrupt them. With their attention now on him, Yu nervously announces that Nashiko is on break and that he needs to check on her. The staff member quickly apologizes and excuses himself since it also means he needs to buy the team refreshments. As he leaves, Azusa lightly slaps Yu's arm in appreciation for stopping the man. The two head off to where Nashiko is resting, though Yu can't shake off a lingering feeling of unease. They quickly move through different locations for the shoot, Yu taking an active role in filming everything and helping out wherever he's needed. Azusa is always nearby, making sure he's getting along well with the rest of the team. By the end of the day, Yu is completely exhausted. While he's resting, Azusa taps a cold bottle of water against his cheek and offers it to him, worried he might be dehydrated. He takes big gulps of water while Azusa fondly watches him, complimenting his hard work. Realizing she said it so casually, her face turns red. To cover up her embarrassment, she tells him to finish the bottle and abruptly walks away. That evening, the team celebrates a successful first day of the photo shoot. Everyone is happy to be in Okinawa, enjoying the work and the company. They'd all compliment Azusa for organizing their schedules so efficiently that everything is running smoothly. They'd also thank you for helping out. Suddenly, the stage comes alive as performers whistle to grab everyone's attention. Traditional music begins to fill the air, and the performers invite everyone to join the dance. The performers instruct the men to do the rock movement while the women do the paper. The team gets fired up and decides to join in, coaxing both Yu and Azusa to dance as well. Azusa grows nervous and tries to refuse, too shy to say she doesn't know how. Yu encourages her and immediately starts dancing to the rhythm, though his steps are completely offbeat, making him look silly. Feeling guilty for hesitating when her junior is being so brave, Azusa swallows her shyness and joins in. Yu beams when he sees her dancing beside him. Soon, the entire team is up and moving to the music. Even Azusa overcomes her initial nervousness and smiles brightly with everyone. You can't help but notice how beautiful she looks when she smiles at him. Later that night, back at the hotel, Yu collapses on his bed, confused about his feelings toward Azusa. A sudden doorbell rings, and when he opens the door, he finds her standing there. Azusa hands him a few creams, pointing out that he's badly sunburned. Yu looks down at his skin and realizes he forgot to apply sunscreen. Azusa reprimands him, reminding him that since they're doing PR for a sunscreen brand, he has to show the client he's actually using it. Yu's expression falls, and Azusa softens her tone, explaining that Okinawa's rays are stronger than usual regardless of the season. Recognizing her attempt to comfort him, Yu smiles and promises to apply sunscreen tomorrow. The next day, the shoot takes place in a field. Everyone on the team is in high spirits since it looks like another day of smooth sailing. Azusa notices how strong the sunlight is, but the shoot continues as planned. Unlike yesterday's beach-inspired setup, today's theme focuses on Okinawa's notable city sites. They even visit a shrine where Nashiko is asked to draw a fortune. After reviewing the shrine shots, they head back to the beach to discuss the rest of their plans. Since it's the last day, everyone thanks each other for their hard work. Azusa announces that with everything finished, the team is free to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. The group cheers at the news since they finally have time to explore Okinawa. Azusa, however, feels unsure. She wants to invite Yu to go sightseeing with her, but worries it might come off as bossy, or that he might prefer to spend his free time alone. Meanwhile, Yu wonders what Azusa plans to do. One of the staff members suddenly suggests that they all go sightseeing together as a group. The idea catches both Yu and Azusa by surprise, though the rest of the team eagerly agrees. As everyone waits for their response, Azusa starts to panic. She's already exhausted from socializing yesterday and earlier today and isn't sure she can keep it up for the rest of the afternoon. Still, she tries to convince herself she can manage since they'll be heading home soon anyway. Noticing her unease, Yu interrupts before she can agree. He says he'd rather use their free time to prepare ideas for their upcoming collab cafe. Azusa immediately latches onto the excuse to work, relieved to avoid further socializing, and the team decides to split up. Once they're alone, Azusa admits that Yu really saved her back there and asks which cafe he wants to visit first. Yu quickly looks up options on his phone, but there are too many choices. Azusa leans over to take a look and easily picks a spot for them to start with. They visit a cozy cafe with a traditional aesthetic where tea is served in clay cups. Azusa enjoys the relaxing atmosphere while Yu searches for more cafes to check out. Their next stop is a place famous for its parfaits, and they can't help but be amazed when they see a group of girls at the next table order a giant parfait compared to their regular size ones. By sunset, they end up at a cafe overlooking the sea. Yu starts drafting plans for the collab cafe, but gets distracted when he notices Azusa gazing out at the ocean, her expression bright and beautiful. On their walk back to the new hotel, Yu feels energized, happy that their last day was spent cafe hopping. He realizes how different Okinawa's cafes feel compared to the ones in Tokyo. Azusa, meanwhile, reflects on how earnest Yu is with his work. Despite the long hours, he never once complained and even used his free time to continue working. She hopes that he still managed to enjoy the trip, even if it was mostly for work. Yu notices her growing quiet and checks on her, prompting Azusa to quickly thank him for the behind-the-scenes footage they'll be meeting. When they arrive at the hotel, they're met with unexpected news. The staff informs them that only one room has been reserved for them. They try to clear things up with the hotel staff, but the staff insists that the reservation was made that way. What she doesn't know is that Minori, who handled the booking, had mistakenly reserved a single room with 2 beds, thinking it was the same thing. Azusa checks if they can book an additional room, but everything is fully booked for Golden Week. With no other choice, she decides they'll have to take the room and figure out a suitable arrangement once they've settled in. Afterward, Azusa takes a bath and reflects on their situation. Even if the room has twin beds, the idea of sleeping in the same space makes her anxious. She briefly considers booking another hotel, but realizes it's unlikely she'll find one available this late on a holiday. She sighs, thinking about how she always seems to attract this kind of bad luck. During another work trip, she once had to share a room with her mentor, Kanzaki. Though she was nervous then too, Kanzaki had lightened the mood by ordering cake and charging it to the company as compensation for the booking mistake. Wondering what she could do for Yu to make things more comfortable, she leaves the bathroom and heads back to the room. She notices Yu isn't in the living room. Instead, he's packing up some of his things. Yu informs Azusa that he'll spend the evening at a nearby manga cafe so she can have the room to herself. As he's about to leave, Azusa stops him, insisting that these things happen and that she's fine sharing a room with him. She adds that something similar had happened to her before. Yu hesitates, still uneasy about the idea. Azusa explains that she once had to share a room with her mentor, someone she greatly admired, and that it turned out fine. She admits that they even had fun, though she tells Yu that he doesn't have to force himself to enjoy himself. Even so, you insist that it might be better if he just leaves. With his hand already on the doorknob, Azusa suddenly appears beside him, holding out her phone with a racing game on the screen as she challenges him to a rematch. Yu stares at her momentarily stunned before Azusa teases him for being scared to lose. Laughing, Yu decides to stay and accepts the challenge, reminding her that she didn't win a single round the last time they played. Soon, the living room is scattered with snacks as the two play round after round. Azusa struggles with the mobile controls as usual, accusing Yu of cheating whenever his car speeds toward the finish line. Yu realizes she isn't using any of her turbo boost and points it out, showing her how to use them. Instead of getting frustrated, Azusa thanks him, grinning as she declares that she'll definitely beat him now. Her enthusiasm makes Yu blush, which she mistakes for another sunburn. She teases him for forgetting sunscreen again, and Yu quickly excuses himself to buy more drinks. At the vending machine, Yu takes a deep breath, trying to make sense of his feelings. The thought of Azusa sharing a room with her mentor leaves a strange ache in his chest. He realizes he feels jealous because Azusa looks up to someone. When he returns, he finds Azusa fast asleep on the bed, clutching her phone tightly. Smiling softly, he considers sleeping, but she suddenly stirs awake, complaining that he took too long. She insists she won't sleep until she finally beats him. Yu smiles and gives in, playing with her throughout the evening. The next morning, they nearly miss their flight home, rushing to the airport with their bags in hand. Despite barely sleeping, Yu feels refreshed. The trip gave him plenty of ideas for their call-out cafe, and more than that, he genuinely had fun. Azusa admits she did too, smiling as they run side by side. Watching her smile beside him, Yu feels his cheeks grow warm again when she reminds him that they'll have a full schedule waiting once they're back at the office. One morning, as Azusa eats her breakfast, the news reports that a typhoon is approaching the area and advises residents to stay indoors. Azusa reviews her workload and realizes that, even with the advisory, some tasks can only be completed at the office, meaning she'll have to risk the trip. She hesitates, wondering if she should make Yu come in as well. It feels unfair to ask a newbie to commute during bad weather, but she'll need him for the meeting, and the deadline for the sunscreen PR project is fast approaching. Her thoughts drift to their Okinawa trip and how much fun she had working with him. Catching herself smiling and daydreaming, she shakes her head and finishes her breakfast, gathering her rain gear to prepare for the commute. She decides that she'll make sure they finish early so Yu can go home before the storm worsens. However, as she heads out, she forgets the most important item of all, her umbrella. When she arrives at the empty office, she's surprised to find no one else around, but then Yu greets her from behind. Startled, Azusa turns around and quickly hides her nervousness by instructing him that they should work quickly so they don't get caught in the worst of the typhoon. As the two settle into work, Azusa notices how different the office feels when it's just the two of them. The silence between them is comfortable, but makes her oddly self-conscious. She tells herself she should be used to Yu's presence by now, especially after their Okinawa trip since they had to share a hotel room together. She shakes her thoughts away and focuses on her tasks, not realizing Yu occasionally glances at her as she takes sips from the cat mug he gave her. When they finally wrap up the things they need for the meeting, Yu looks out the window and frowns. The rain has already intensified. Azusa sighs, admitting she had hoped to finish before it started pouring. She then worries aloud that Yu's shoes might get soaked. Yu admits they aren't waterproof. Noticing her cute rain boots, he compliments them without thinking. Azusa's face turns red and she masks her fluster by lecturing him to buy proper business rain boots next time so he can be more prepared. Yu apologizes and they head down to leave the building. Outside, the rain pounds heavily against the pavement. Azusa mutters that she forgot her umbrella, scolding herself for teasing Yu earlier when she wasn't any better prepared. Without hesitation, Yu insists she use his umbrella. Before she can refuse, he explains that he has a spare collapsible one in his bag. Reluctantly, she accepts. They step out into the storm together. The winds whip around them, pushing their umbrellas in every direction. Azusa manages better since Yu gave her the sturdier umbrella, but when she looks back, she sees him struggling with his smaller umbrella bending under the pressure. Azusa insists that Yu use the sturdier umbrella while she takes the smaller one, but Yu stubbornly refuses and walks ahead even as his umbrella keeps folding into him. Azusa moves closer, holding her umbrella out to cover them both, saying it would cause trouble for their clients if he arrived at the meeting soaked. Yu smiles at her kindness and offers to hold the umbrella for both of them, accidentally taking her hand in the process, which makes Azusa nervous. As they trudge through the rain together, Azusa notices that Yu still positions the umbrella to shield her more than himself, allowing his shoulder to get soaked in the rain. Up close, she can't help but realize how much taller he is since it is the first time they've had to be so near each other. When they reach the client's office, the clients apologize for asking them to come in during such a storm. Azusa remains composed and thanks them for making time to meet. She eagerly presents the merchandise samples for the upcoming call-out cafe and lets Yu discuss the items in detail. Aside from the products, Yu explains the cafe menu and how they plan to incorporate the latest racetracks that will be released in the next update. Azusa watches him closely and notes how well he handles everything as usual. She silently scolds herself for forgetting her umbrella and needing to rely on him. Determined to make it up to him, she decides to finish work early so Yu can head home ahead of time. After the meeting, they rush back to the office, Azusa with an umbrella she had just bought. Despite having umbrellas, they both still end up drenched. Azusa immediately throws a towel over his head and starts drying his hair. They both smile as she fusses over him, and Azusa is reminded of her family's cat as she does. They head back to their floor, and she then tells him to hang up his jacket so it can dry, and Yu offers to get her a coffee. As he leaves, Azusa notices he simply draped his jacket over his desk and worries it'll wrinkle if left like that. She picks it up, surprised at how large it is, and wonders how people are supposed to hang something that big properly. When Yu returns with their coffee, he finds Azusa wearing and playing with his coat. He doesn't interrupt, quietly finding the sight adorable because of how big the coat fits on her. She eventually notices that she's been caught, and her face turns red from embarrassment. To seem professional, she tries to play it off by simply thanking him for the coffee and not even mentioning what she was doing. As the hours pass, Azusa remarks that the storm might be reaching Kanto earlier than expected. She takes bites of her sandwich as she catches Yu lost in thought as he observes the rain from their window. She teases that he might actually be excited about the typhoon. Yu admits that he's feeling a bit restless because of the storm, and Azusa tells him that he'll stop feeling that way once he's worked longer. Right now, he's still just a kid. Yu seizes the moment to tease her, asking if that means she's also a kid since she was just playing with his suit. Azusa chokes on her sandwich and insists that there are simply times when she wants to be childish. A flash of lightning and a loud crash of thunder make Azusa flinch, and she quickly moves away from the window to an area in her office where she cannot see the lightning. Yu notices that she might be scared of lightning and thunder and reassures her that lightning would most likely hit a lightning rod since they're in the business district. Azusa tries to calm herself, but another rumble of thunder still makes her uneasy despite no longer seeing the lightning. To distract her, Yu suggests they play a word game. She agrees, and when Yu quickly messes up, she begins to laugh. When she calms down, Yu points out that the lightning has already passed, and Azusa feels calm and determined enough to finish work. As the day draws to a close, the rain starts to pick up again. She advises Yu to head home early before the trains stop running. Yu hesitates, realizing Azusa plans to stay behind. She admits that she will since there are still tasks she can only do in the office, and she wants to finish them now since she'll be working from home tomorrow. Instead of leaving, Yu offers to help so she can go home sooner. Touched by his thoughtfulness, Azusa asks him to retrieve some documents from the sales department while she attends an online meeting. She tells him to just leave the papers on her desk afterward and head home directly. As she moves to another room for the meeting, she can't help but think about how kind Yu is. Down in the sales department, Yu finds Sukahara, a senior from his school. Seeing him there, Sukahara decides to have some small talk with Yu. Sukahara complains about all his deadlines today and asks Yu if he can give him some of his tasks so he can head home earlier. Meanwhile, Azusa finishes her meeting and notices how late it's gotten. The wind outside sounds much stronger now, and she wonders if the trains are still running. When she returns to her desk, she's surprised to find Yu still there. Although she wants to ask why he hasn't left, she instead tells him they should hurry up and go so they can catch a train. But Yu says she should go ahead since he was asked to help out by a senior, so he plans on staying overtime. Azusa's patience snaps. She storms over to the sales department and confronts Sukahara, telling him not to dump his work on Yu. Sukahara insists it was just a request and that he didn't force Yu to do anything. But Azusa fires back that he used his seniority to make Yu comply, explaining that asking a junior for help is practically an order they can't refuse. She accuses Sukahara of taking advantage of that. Azusa firmly tells Sukahara that she will not tolerate her junior working overtime in such bad weather and orders him to do his own work. With that, she storms out of the department. Sukahara gives a quick apology to Yu, who smiles and thanks him before running after Azusa. Yu catches up to her, and Azusa tells him to just say no to extra work next time. Before they head out, they check if the trains are still running. Once Yu confirms, Azusa tries to lead the way to the station but nearly gets blown away by the wind. She quickly retreats to the safety of the building, and the two of them stare outside, wondering how they'll even make it out alive. Azusa suggests that since the rain is so strong and they'll get wet anyway, they should just make a run for it. Yu, however, suggests they share an umbrella instead. He insists that it's safer than running, reasoning that at least they'll have some cover if anything flies toward them. Trying to convince her, he adds that in times like this, being a man can be useful since he's strong enough not to be blown away and can keep the umbrella steady for them both. He realizes his words sound weird and emphasizes that he really just meant strength and nothing else. Azusa finds herself agreeing, and just like before, she ends up walking very close to Yu. His words make her realize that even if he's her junior, he's still a man, and that thought makes her nervous. At the same time, she can't help but notice how reliable he is even outside of work. Yu glances at her to check if she's doing okay and admits that the umbrella isn't really helping much. Azusa insists that it is helping. She then admits that the reason she wanted to run earlier was that she was scared of missing the train. Yu laughs at her honesty before quickly apologizing. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind nearly rips the umbrella from Yu's hand. He leans it closer toward Azusa to keep her from getting wet. Azusa starts to protest, but Yu suggests she move closer so he can shield them both better. Nervously, she steps closer until they're side by side beneath the umbrella, walking together through the storm. Azusa asks if Yu can still walk properly, and he says he's fine, which makes her smile. Luckily, they both manage to catch the train and are surprised to find that they actually take the same line home. Azusa usually ends work later than Yu, so he's never had the chance to ride with her before. They make polite small talk to fill the awkward silence, and soon enough, the train stops at Azusa's station. Before she leaves, Yu hands her his umbrella since it's sturdier and mentions that he lives close to his own stop. Azusa smiles and accepts the umbrella, also handing him a small pack before stepping off the train. She thanks him for the work he did that day and watches as he bows politely just before the train starts moving again. When she arrives home, Azusa hangs Yu's umbrella beside her own, adjusting it so they're close together. She feels a quiet relief knowing she won't have to face the storm tomorrow, though part of her isn't sure how she'll face Yu either. Meanwhile, Yu arrives home and begins drying his hair with the towel Azusa had given him. As he does, he wonders if he should buy some nice-smelling fabric softener to wash it with. Azusa rehearses her lines on the way to work, planning to ask Yu out for drinks as a thank you for lending her his umbrella. But as she nears her department, she spots Yu talking with Miho, whom she hasn't met before. She slows her steps and listens in on their conversation, a strange feeling of jealousy stirring inside her. The moment she realizes it, she shakes it off and tells herself she should be happy for Yu. Mentally, she cheers him on instead. As she listens longer, she overhears them talking about fireworks. Assuming the event is happening soon, she decides to postpone inviting Yu out for drinks and starts to walk away. However, she freezes when she hears Akemi and Minori suddenly butt into the conversation, asking if they can join Yu and Miho to watch the fireworks. Irritation rises in her because she finds it rude that her coworkers would interrupt Yu's conversation just to invite themselves. The more she listens, the more she feels that Akemi and Minori are overstepping their bounds. Seeing Yu and Miho politely struggle to refuse their seniors, Azusa finally decides to step in. She walks up and announces that she'll be joining them as well. Her unexpected declaration makes Akemi and Minori instantly back down, nervously excusing themselves and leaving the group alone. Azusa is secretly relieved that her reputation as an unapproachable senior still works in her favor. Turning back to Yu and Miho, she quickly clarifies that she doesn't actually plan on joining them and that Yu should enjoy the festival with Miho. When she sees their confused expressions, she realizes perhaps she completely misread the situation. Maybe they had wanted to go with their seniors after all, but before she can correct herself, both Yu and Miho invite her to join them to watch the fireworks. The three of them head to the break room to talk. Miho introduces herself as a new hire from the public relations department. Azusa introduces herself as well, and Miho cheerfully says it feels like they already know each other since she's heard so much about Azusa. Flustered, Yu tries to change the topic, suggesting that they should finalize their festival plans so Azusa can return to work. Miho pulls out her phone and shows Azusa that she won seated tickets for the fireworks festival, explaining that all 6 new hires plan to go together. Azusa pales at the thought since it means she'll have to mingle with 6 of her juniors, which sounds painfully awkward for her as a senior. She tries to decline politely and suggests that they all enjoy themselves without her, but Miho insists she joins since she's always wanted to talk to her. Yu tries to subtly help Azusa out of the situation, but Miho doesn't catch his hints, leaving Azusa trapped in an invitation she doesn't know how to refuse. That evening, Azusa thinks about the upcoming festival and what she should wear. She knows most people wear yukatas, but she has no idea what looks nice. Then she remembers that her mother had bought her 1 year ago that she never got to wear. She calls her mother, whose cheerful voice immediately fills her ears. They exchange a few words before Azusa brings up the yukata. Her mother gets excited and assumes Azusa needs it for a date. Flustered, Azusa quickly corrects her, explaining that she's only going with coworkers from the office. Her mother sends her a photo of the yukata, and Azusa pales at the sight since it's overly childish. She decides against wearing it, but her mother insists on sending her some accessories and even a bit of money so she can buy a new one. Azusa tries to argue that she can buy her own, which makes her mother laugh, realizing Azusa probably has plenty saved since all she does is work and stay home playing games. At the yukata shop, Azusa feels overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. A sales lady approaches and offers to help, but Azusa stiffly declines. The woman politely steps back, and Azusa silently apologizes in her head, knowing she was only doing her job. As she browses, she spots a yukata pattern with turtles and for a moment thinks of Yu. She quickly shakes the thought away and decides to buy the yukata displayed on the mannequin instead. Back home, she watches tutorial videos and tries to put the yukata on herself, but no matter how many times she adjusts it, it still looks wrong. After nearly an hour, she admits defeat and realizes she'll need help. The next day at work, Azusa discreetly heads to the public relations department and signals Miho that she wants to talk. Miho initially assumes Azusa plans to back out of joining the group, but Azusa surprises her by saying she's planning to wear a yukata. Miho's eyes light up as she had wanted to wear one too, but was afraid she'd stand out. Knowing Azusa will wear one gives her the confidence to do the same. Realizing she got carried away, Miho reins herself in and lets Azusa continue. Azusa asks how Miho plans to wear hers, and Miho explains that some salons offer dressing services by appointment, though she's just planning to follow video tutorials instead. As Miho continues to chatter excitedly, Azusa decides it would be safer to book a salon to help her with the yukata. After their talk, Miho happens to spot Yu in the hallway. With a teasing grin, she tells him to look forward to seeing Azusa in a yukata. Yu immediately flushes red as Miho sings and skips away. On the day of the festival, all the new hires gather near the station. Many of them are eager to finally meet Azusa, having heard rumors around the office about how intimidating she supposedly is. Yu tries to defend her, explaining that while she's strict, she's also kind and hardworking. His friends just say it's probably Yu's kindness that brings out her softer side. Before Yu can argue more, Miho spots Azusa first and waves her over. Yu looks up and freezes when he sees her wearing a light yellow yukata that suits her perfectly. Miho, more composed, rushes up to compliment her, and Azusa politely returns the praise, learning that Miho had managed to put on her own yukata. Azusa then greets the rest of the group, telling them to enjoy the night even with her around. The group eagerly returns her greeting, relieved to find she's not nearly as scary as they imagined. Yu tries to introduce everyone but ends up stammering, and the others take over while teasing him for being shy. Azusa simply smiles at their energy. As they make their way toward the festival grounds, Miho suggests buying snacks since there's still time before the fireworks. With so many stalls around, the group decides to split into two groups. Azusa joins Yu and Miho's team. She feels a bit guilty about being looked after, but decides to go along with them since she is clueless in this setting. When Yu asks what she wants to eat, she admits she's craving cold noodles. Yu and Miho start suggesting other festival foods, listing popular Japanese snacks. Azusa agrees to go with their choices, happy to try something new, and hands them her wallet to pay. Yu and Miho both refuse at first, but she insists, reasoning that festival stalls can be expensive. They give in, and Azusa smiles triumphantly as they head off to buy food. They return with freshly made takoyaki. Miho suggests eating them while they're still hot, and she and Yu pop the steaming pieces into their mouths, skillfully cooling them as they chew. Azusa tries to follow their lead, but the takoyaki burns her mouth. They quickly buy Azusa some shaved ice, and the cool sweetness instantly soothes her burnt tongue. Yu apologizes for encouraging her to eat it while the takoyaki was still hot. The three of them end up standing in a corner, enjoying their food as the festival buzzes around them. Yu wonders aloud why festival food always tastes better than normal food. He says he often eats yakisoba at home, but somehow the ones at festivals always taste special. Miho teases that it's probably because he's comparing them to instant yakisoba. She turns to Azusa and reveals that Yu spent most of his training period on a tight budget because he kept buying plastic model kits. Azusa tells her she already knows. She watches as Yu and Miho continue to banter, and for the first time she notices how relaxed Yu seems. It feels different seeing a side of him that doesn't show up at work. After finishing their food, they spot a shooting game booth and decide to try their luck. Azusa says she'll just watch, but Miho and Yu both insist on winning her a prize. Her eyes drift toward a small turtle plush sitting on the shelf. Standing behind them, Azusa watches as they try to win the plushie. For a moment, she is touched by how kind they both are, but a pang of guilt settles in her chest. She worries that they might just be humoring her because she's their senior. Her feet move before she can think, and she quietly walks away, deciding she'll meet them later at the fireworks spot and pretend she got lost. As she wanders, the strap of her sandal suddenly snaps. She looks around and realizes she's strayed into a part of town she doesn't recognize. Reaching for her phone, she groans when she realizes that she forgot to charge it. She sits on a nearby bench watching groups of friends pass by in laughter. She tells herself she's used to being alone. She always has been since school. But for some reason, the thought of missing the fireworks with Yu makes her chest ache in a way she can't explain. Her thoughts are interrupted when Miho finds her. She notices the broken sandal and the dead phone and immediately calls Yu to tell him she's found Azusa. Turning back, she gently smiles and says that Yu is really worried about her. Azusa apologizes for ruining the evening, but Miho waves it off. She says it's actually nice getting a chance to talk to her. Azusa looks puzzled, unsure why someone would be happy about that. Miho explains that Yu talks about her all the time. Miho admits she's also heard the rumors from other departments about Azusa being scary and overly strict, but knowing Yu is not the type to lie or exaggerate. Azusa blushes slightly, muttering for Miho to stop flattering her. Miho just smiles kindly, seeing a softer side of her senior. Before they can say more, Yu's voice calls out in the distance. They both look up to see him, worry written all over his face. He looks like he's about to scold them, but Miho quickly reassures him that Azusa is fine and says they should hurry before the fireworks start. Azusa tells them to go ahead since her sandal broke. Yu is searching for a fix on his phone. He borrows a coin from her wallet and, using his handkerchief and the coin, manages to repair the strap just enough to walk on. Both Azusa and Miho are impressed by how clever the fix is. Azusa tests it out and smiles when it holds. They start hurrying toward the viewing spot, but Miho walks ahead, grabbing Azusa's hand to pull her along. Yu scolds her for rushing too fast and struggles to keep up. Seeing this, Azusa reaches back and grabs Yu's hand, urging him not to get separated. He feels his face heat up as their hands touch. When they finally reach the paid area for ticket holders, Miho runs off to buy drinks. Azusa suddenly realizes she's still holding Yu's hand and quickly lets go. Yu apologizes for snapping at her earlier out of worry. Before either of them can say more, the first firework lights up the sky. They both gaze toward the sky, amazed at how pretty the fireworks are from their spot. Azusa gazes up at the dazzling lights and wonders quietly how their relationship would be if they weren't senior and junior. One day, as Yu photocopies documents, he sees Azusa through the glass doors of one of the meeting rooms. She tries to tell him to get her phone from her desk, but her gestures only confuse Yu. Since he was taking too much time, she finally snaps and opens the meeting room door to yell at him to get her phone. After delivering her phone, Yu sits in the break room looking a bit downcast. Miho notices and teases that Azusa must have gotten mad at him. Yu admits that it's part of the reason he's feeling sad. He also mentions that Azusa has dialect slip-ups when she's flustered, which causes Miho to get confused. Yu notices the time and decides to head back to work. Miho remains still, wondering if she has ever heard Azusa speak with a dialect. During work, Yu keeps sighing due to the endless pinging of his phone. Azusa finally calls his attention, and he explains that his parents have been texting him nonstop even after he had mentioned that he cannot reply during working hours. She calls him a child for worrying about his parents contacting him, but quickly regrets her words when she notices they came out harshly. Out of the corner of her eye, she notices one of the texts says Yu-chan and decides to teasingly use it on him, much to his horror. After teasing him, she tells him that he should visit his parents and learns that they live in a city really close to where they work. Yu shares that while it's nice to have them close, they often drop by to bug him and nag him to take better care of himself. Azusa pretends to think about his words carefully before teasingly using his nickname again. Later that evening, Azusa stares at her empty refrigerator and realizes she has nothing to brag about because her own living conditions aren't exactly ideal, and that her own parents would be worried if they knew. Seeing nothing interesting to eat, she decides it's time to do some shopping. She drops by a fairly big shopping district and gets excited after seeing all the great food choices they have. She reminds herself that the benefit of living alone means she can eat whatever she wants at any time. She then notices a store with a limited lunchbox sale and decides that it's the perfect place to look for dinner. She browses the selection of lunchboxes, excited to try their items until she hears Yu's voice. Taken aback to see him, she questions why he didn't visit his family when he said he would, and he explains that his parents had gone on vacation. He then tells Azusa that he is surprised she shops in the same district that he does. Azusa struggles to come up with an answer since she only came into the supermarket to buy a bento. She worries that Yu will find out that she hardly ever cooks. She then overhears a couple talking about dinner plans and what the woman should cook when they get home. Azusa feels a bit guilty and then notices that Yu even looks a bit jealous of the couple. However, Yu is actually concerned because he wonders if he and Azusa look like a couple doing groceries together. The thought makes him go red. Azusa then tells Yu that it is admirable that he does his own cooking and wonders out loud if Yu wishes to have a girlfriend who will cook for him. For some reason, she dreads his answer, but Yu surprises her by admitting that he'd rather have a girlfriend he can cook with or who practices cooking for him, since he finds the gesture endearing. Azusa feels relieved, but then hastily admits she came to the shop to buy vegetables, hiding the fact that she wanted to take advantage of the bento sale. Yu decides to suggest some vegetables to buy since they are on sale as Azusa masks her sadness over not buying the bento she had wanted. One day at work, Yu informs Azusa that he is done with the meeting. Azusa looks up from her desk and apologizes for leaving him to do the meeting by himself. Yu finds it all right since the meeting turned out well. They had managed to decide most of the things they needed for the run of the collaboration cafe, such as the menu and setup. Mid-sentence, he notices Azusa's hand is bandaged up and asks what happened. Azusa tells him that those are just paper cuts. However, Yu is suspicious because there are far too many cuts. Before he can question her further, Azusa's phone rings and she notices that it's her mother, Sakura. She gets annoyed but quickly recalls her words to Yu, so she decides to answer it and hands Yu her marker, asking him to fix it. As she answers her phone and leaves the room for privacy, Yu wonders what exactly he needs to fix. Sakura tells her that she's been trying to get in touch with her for ages before expressing her excitement over their neighbor's newborn baby. Sakura begins to chatter about several random topics, making Azusa feel herself get annoyed and angrily reminding Sakura not to call during workdays. Sakura apologizes and then gets to the point of the call. She asks Azusa if she is seeing someone because she found it odd that Azusa had wanted a picture of the yukata the other day. However, she tells Azusa that if she isn't dating, then that is also okay. When Sakura tells her that arranged marriages are an option, she angrily declares that she already has a boyfriend and hangs up without explaining. She then notices Yu nearby, looking shocked at her declaration of having a boyfriend. He explains that he was confused by her earlier instructions since the marker seems fine. Azusa realizes she let her dialect slip and used a different word to mean something else. She pales and explains that in her dialect, it means to put away an item. Yu reassures her that it's fine and that he sometimes studies her dialect, making Azusa realize that she might have been using her dialect a lot in the office. She worries that she might have sounded rude to a lot of people when she had worked so hard to speak in standard Japanese. Yu tries to reassure her that it's not the case, causing Azusa to glare at him, trying to get him to admit the truth. He apologizes and admits that it had happened a few times. Azusa tells him that she'll be relying on him to tell her if he doesn't understand something. She walks past him, and the only thing Yu is thinking of is what kind of person Azusa must be dating. Azusa notices Sakura calling again and answers her phone. She panics when Sakura admits that she's actually outside of her house, hoping they can eat somewhere together with her boyfriend. Azusa blanks out, making Yu worry. After hanging up, Azusa explains that Sakura is in her house and expects to meet her boyfriend over dinner. Yu says that it's a great thing, but Azusa guiltily explains that she doesn't really have a boyfriend. Yu feels relieved but quickly scolds himself for feeling that way toward his senior. Azusa then mentions that she is worried Sakura will try to hook her up with a stranger once she learns Azusa has no boyfriend. Worried that it might actually happen, Yu decides to volunteer to be her pretend boyfriend. After work, Yu and Azusa stay behind to work on their story as a couple. They decide that they should at least mention that they are co-workers, but Azusa doesn't know what other details they should work on. When Yu suggests they should figure out the length of their relationship, Azusa declares they should just say a week, but Yu feels that it's too recent. Azusa admits that she doesn't know much about dating. Feeling nervous, Yu suggests they say they've been going together for 4 months since it's been 4 months since they met. He then admits that he doesn't know much about her, and it would be helpful if she shared a bit about herself so he can answer Sakura's questions. He feels he might have overstepped, but Azusa admits that she likes games. Yu shares that he likes games as well and has recently started playing Final Fantasy. Azusa mentions that she is playing the same game and keeps getting distracted by the side quests. She smiles easily, happy to know they have a hobby in common. Even Yu feels giddy that they share something in common. She feels confident they can get through dinner and heads to the restaurant. At the restaurant, Yu frets over his appearance and Azusa shares that he is fine and shouldn't worry about all the small details. Sakura arrives and Yu is surprised by how young she looks, initially not believing that the girl in front of them is Sakura. He introduces himself and Sakura tells him how excited she is to meet him because Azusa has never introduced a boyfriend to her. They soon settle into dinner and Sakura shares a lot of embarrassing stories about Azusa, much to her dismay. Sakura suddenly asks what Yu likes about Azusa the most. Azusa pales and worries that Yu won't be able to answer, but a sudden phone call interrupts her thoughts. She excuses herself since it's a client call and leaves to talk in a quieter area. Sakura soon asks Yu about their relationship, even asking if they already have a baby they are hiding. After Yu denies it, saying they are not in that phase yet, Sakura explains her concerns for Azusa because she tends to be misunderstood due to her introverted nature. She tells Yu about the time Azusa was elected to be a class representative during elementary school but had a difficult time. During practice for their school festival, her classmate got hurt and out of panic, Azusa had ordered everyone to calm down. It was taken the wrong way and her classmates ended up scared of her. She explains that Azusa is extremely kind, that she risked getting hated in order to protect a classmate. She's aware she is speaking from the perspective of a mother, but she really can't help it. She adds that Azusa should be more put together and hopes that Yu won't end up hating her. Yu accidentally calls Azusa his senior and admits that he can never hate her. He admits that her words can be harsh and that people around her consider her scary, but Azusa always has good intentions, especially when it comes to making sure he can get the work done perfectly by calling him out if she spots mistakes. Sakura is pleased to know he thinks so highly of her daughter, and Yu begins telling Sakura some stories from the office. Azusa keeps herself hidden as she listens, grateful that Yu had said such kind words about her. After dinner, as Azusa tries to hail a cab from herself and her mother, Sakura thanks Yu for playing along with her daughter's antics. She admits she had figured out that Yu wasn't really her boyfriend because she had caught Yu referring to Azusa as her senior, but is thankful that Yu is sticking by her. When she learns that Azusa uses dialect when speaking to Yu, her heart swells. Azusa informs Sakura that she has managed to get a taxi and she tells Yu one last thing before going off with her daughter. The next day, Yu is treated by Azusa as a thank you. When Azusa gets her own dish, she notices it comes with a side salad with tomatoes. She looks at it a bit sadly, muttering that she cannot cut it. He realizes she meant she cannot eat it because she doesn't like it, and asks if he can have it instead. When Azusa asks if he likes tomato, he explains that it's just normal to him, but he has a decent grasp of her accent now that he got the hint she doesn't like it. Azusa reddens that Yu had studied her accent and asks Yu what he had talked about with Sakura. Yu struggles to come up with an answer because Sakura had mentioned that Azusa trusts and is comfortable with him because her accent slips with him. Instead of telling her, he smiles and shares that it's a secret, which irritates Azusa. At the evening before the opening of the cafe, Yu proudly shows Azusa one of the displays he's commissioned. It's a mock-up of one of the vehicles in the game. Azusa compliments him and checks out more items on the list. She notices the merchandise hasn't arrived yet, and Yu informs her that they are scheduled to arrive first thing tomorrow morning. She worries a bit but decides to push it away for now. Her attention then goes to the posters and the costumes. Azusa immediately loves the costumes and begins to wonder if Yu is into girls who wear those kinds of maid outfits. Yu notices her staring, so Azusa covers up her thoughts by saying that she's looking forward to tomorrow. The next morning, Miho catches Azusa just about to leave the office. They greet each other, and Miho learns that Azusa is about to head out to see the cafe. She notes that Azusa seems excited, which makes Azusa flustered. Miho asks if she can tag along, reassuring her that she can use the field day as content for the company's newsletter. On the walk to the cafe, Azusa informs Miho about what Yu has been working on. She seems proud of Yu, and Miho is quick to point it out. Azusa tries to cover up her excitement again, saying she wants to see the fruits of Yu's hard labor. Miho tells her that Yu is very lucky to be under a mentor like her, and that Yu has been oozing happiness for the past few days. With the cafe already within sight, it notices there is already a long line waiting to be let in. Azusa goes to the back of the cafe, and Miho notices that everyone, including them, is very early. Azusa knows it's because you need to download something before the cafe opening to receive bonuses, and she also wants to take part in the event for the free in-game items. Again, she masks her eagerness from Miho by stating she needs to be early to support Yu in case something goes wrong. Miho smiles knowingly at her as they enter through the back of the cafe. They are shocked to see Yu apologizing to the store manager. They immediately help Yu put up the merchandise that had just arrived. Apparently, they are a little behind since the items were supposed to arrive much earlier. Miho wants to argue because none of this is Yu's fault, but Azusa corrects her and states that Yu had scheduled things too tightly and should have foreseen this kind of thing. Yu immediately apologizes to her, but Azusa also apologizes to him for not advising him properly. She urges them to continue working on the display due to time constraints. As they begin to work again, Azusa scolds herself for not bringing up the issue yesterday. As they are almost done, the store manager suddenly approaches them and informs them that 3 of the staff have decided not to show up, so they are short on servers. While he can call other employees to cover for them, he doubts they will arrive in time for opening. Azusa informs him that she can call the event partners for backup, and they decide to continue with their work. Azusa looks at their progress and realizes that they can finish the display on time, but worries about the missing servers. Yu hurriedly goes to Miho and informs her that the extra help can arrive in the afternoon. He notices Azusa is missing and was hoping to bring up the matter to her. Miho recalls that she had gone off somewhere not too long ago. Yu panics and worries that Azusa has left because she is furious with him, but Azusa scolds him from behind for taking too much time moping instead of actually working. Yu is shocked to hear her voice but relieved that she is still here. When he turns, he is surprised to see Azusa in the maid outfit for the cafe. Azusa tells him that she will help cover for the lack of staff as a means to redeem herself for her earlier mistakes. She then tells Yu to stop brooding and uses energy to work instead. She turns around to scold herself, aware that she might have sounded too harsh again. She decides to do something to amend her harshness and pulls on Yu's tie so she can reach his head to pat it. Miho playfully shouts over that the way Azusa patted Yu's head isn't the right way to encourage people. The cafe opens with big energy. The maids greet the guests and lead them to their tables. Azusa tries her hand at serving, and her first guest orders an omelette over rice. The guest waits for Azusa to write on it with ketchup. Though embarrassed, she does so since it is part of the duties, but it ends up really awkward and she accidentally covers the entire dish with ketchup. She apologizes and promises to bring out a new one, but the guest smiles at her antics and says that he actually loves ketchup. Next, Azusa is asked to play a game with a couple so they can get the chance to win a clear folder with characters on it. The couple wins and Azusa offers them to choose their folders, and they are both extremely happy with their prizes. However, as Azusa continues to work, she makes more and more mistakes around the cafe. She feels tired and she soon notices Miho, who has also changed into a costume to help out. She notices how effortlessly Miho can interact with guests and how she even seems to fit in perfectly. She moves to work in another area until one of the maids asks for a favor. Later, Miho and Yu stop for a break. Miho expresses that she's grateful that the help from their partners has finally arrived. Yu apologizes for having her work, but Miho claims that she's actually having fun. Yu then expresses that he worries Azusa is pushing herself. He mentioned that he had noticed how robotic and nervous she is every time she goes over to serve a table. Miho notices that Yu is really down about the situation and tells him that Azusa probably wants him to rely on her a little more. Miho shares that Azusa even approached her for advice on how to handle him, which to her is a clear sign that Azusa cherishes Yu. Yu is surprised since Azusa has never mentioned anything, and Miho insists that Azusa probably couldn't bring herself to talk about some things with him. Suddenly, their attention is diverted to the commotion on the cafe floor. At the stage, some of the maids begin a performance around the mock-up to the theme of the game. Among the maids, Azusa struggles to keep up with the energy and smiles. Yu and Miho quickly go near the stage to see, and Miho immediately notices that Azusa is having a hard time keeping up with the rest of the maids, so she immediately cuts in and begins dancing even if her steps are completely different from everyone else. This somehow puts Azusa at ease as she nervously goes back to the spotlight and begins dancing with Miho and the others. As the crowd begins to clap in time with the music, Azusa can't help but let her gaze wander to the crowd. She notices Yu in the crowd and she begins to feel a little more embarrassed than usual. By the end of the performance, she is back next to the mock-up, but still tries to wave and smile at the crowd as the girls in the number. By sunset, Azusa tries to get people to visit them by offering flyers, but no one seems to mind her. Yu suddenly calls out to her and hands her a drink and a towel. He tells Azusa to rest back in the cafe since the stand-in employees have already arrived, so she doesn't really need to work as much anymore. Azusa accuses him of thinking she cannot work in customer service. When she sees Yu visibly panic, she smirks and tries to prove that she can attract customers. However, everyone keeps ignoring her. She and Yu then notice the other girls inviting people to the cafe, and to their surprise, the girls actually manage to get people to take their flyers. Azusa can't help but feel like she's been beaten by the pros. Yu suggests they leave the rest of the other maids and that they should take a break. Behind the cafe, Azusa mopes that maids are amazing and Yu agrees with her. She then mentions how Miho effortlessly got into character today while she struggled to do the same. Yu immediately notices how her tone dropped and tries to insist that Azusa contributed so much to the success of the cafe. He adds that he and Miho are also motivated to work even harder when Azusa is around. Azusa takes it to mean that they feel pressured by her presence. Yu struggles to think of a reply to her interpretation. Suddenly, he admits that he cannot swim, only managing 15 meters before he begins to drown. He then mentions that he also hates peppers and that when he was a student, he often procrastinated. He adds that he has never won a fight with his siblings, and that he actually has curly hair that he straightens every morning. The last statement makes Azusa recall Yu arriving at the office with wavy hair. Yu explains there isn't much he can do on humid days. Azusa smiles and thanks him for saying all those things because it makes him seem more human and closer to her. She then declares that they have rested enough and that she needs to go back and work as a maid to make up for all the trouble they caused the cafe. However, she feels there won't be much demand for her. This makes Yu blurt out that there is, but he then goes quiet as soon as he lets the words slip. Azusa thinks this is another attempt to make her feel better about how bad she is at being a maid. Back inside the cafe, it's as busy as ever since all the tables are full. Yu and Azusa notice that Miho is having trouble with a customer. A guest has been trying to get Miho to pose for him, but Miho can't seem to get the right pose. Azusa takes this as the guest harassing Miho, so she angrily marches up to them. She unknowingly does the pose the man wants as she asks what the man is even doing to Miho. As Yu panics, the man suddenly becomes very happy, explaining that Azusa is doing the right pose and even thanks her for it. Azusa is confused since the man suddenly became so happy. He asks for a parfait and a game with Azusa, hoping that she'll bring the same angry energy that she did. Azusa is still confused by his sudden happiness, but decides to follow the man's requests. Nearing nightfall, almost all the extra help has arrived and the store manager thanks Yu and Azusa for the help. He even compliments Azusa for giving them top-tier service. Azusa and Yu enter the break room and express their relief that the first day managed to end smoothly. Before Azusa makes a move to change, she decides to ask Yu about her last customer and why he seems so happy with her service. Yu points to a standee of a character that resembles Azusa's outfit, expression, and aura. Azusa smiles and mimics the pose, asking if the resemblance is clear. Yu blushes and admits that it is, but states that Azusa has always seemed like the master instead of the maid. Azusa demands an explanation, so Yu tells her that since Azusa is his senior and always looking after him, it is very difficult for him to imagine her calling other people master. Azusa looks at him confused and points out that part of being a maid is to look out for people. Yu realizes she has a point. Miho suddenly appears in the break room and declares that today was a huge success and that the three of them should celebrate with drinks. She pushes Azusa to get dressed so they can go to the bar before it gets too busy, and Azusa calls Yu master and urges him to hurry and get ready as well. Yu blushes and Azusa becomes too embarrassed by her words that she rushes out. One evening after work, Azusa complains about how chilly it has gotten. Yu wonders if he should do something to make her feel warmer on their walk to the station. He briefly considers rubbing her shoulder but quickly realizes that could count as sexual harassment. Instead, he removes his jacket and drapes it over her shoulders. Azusa looks puzzled, so he explains that he's actually warm. Seeing that he truly doesn't mind, Azusa accepts the jacket without any complaints. Ritsu happens to witness the little exchange from the building. One day, Azusa finds herself in a shopping district. She admires the fall and winter clothes from afar, too shy to enter the store because she can't handle talking to sales staff. She comforts herself with the idea that she can always buy the clothes online. Yu spots her and stares for a moment. Azusa eventually notices and nervously asks what he's doing in town. He admits he's meeting someone later and decided to do some shopping to pass the time. Azusa relaxes and confesses that she's been wanting to check out clothes. Yu looks at the store she'd been gazing at, notices there are many employees around, and guesses that Azusa is too shy to go in. He also guesses correctly that she really just wants to take her time looking at each item without being approached by any sales ladies. So Yu decides to go in with her, keeping the employees occupied while Azusa finally gets to browse the items she wants to see. Feeling at ease, she eventually asks a sales lady if she can try on a few outfits. She first changes into a stylish floral dress, and Yu instantly thinks it looks great on her. Then she tries something chic and modern, which Yu also agrees suits her. Lastly, she tries on a more modest but cute outfit that she believes she can wear to work. And again, Yu enthusiastically approves. She wonders aloud which one she should buy, and Yu tells her they all look good on her. He immediately regrets his choice of words, worried it might sound like he doesn't care. But he relaxes when Azusa beams at him. She happily heads to the counter with all of her chosen clothes. Yu watches her, thinking she looked cute, then promptly bangs his head against the wall, scolding himself for thinking of his senior too familiarly. By sunset, Azusa thanks Yu for all of his help. She struggles a bit but manages to give him a casual goodbye instead of her usual formal ones. Yu smiles and echoes the same farewell, and the two part ways. Azusa immediately worries that she came off awkwardly. As she walks, she convinces herself that her casual goodbye was fine since her usual work-style farewell would have felt strange. Just then, she hears a girl call Yu's name. When she turns to look, she sees a girl clinging to Yu's arm. The next day at work, Azusa stands lost in thought by the vending machines. Ritsu offers her a drink, the exact one he knows is her favorite. Azusa eyes him suspiciously. Ritsu laughs easily, pretending to be offended that she assumes the worst of him since they haven't seen each other in a while. Suddenly, Miho walks over and greets them, thanking Ritsu for all of his hard work. Ritsu smiles warmly at her and even asks for her name so he can address her properly. Azusa lightly scolds him for being so casual, and Ritsu claims he's always like this with everyone. He then points out that Azusa has changed a lot because normally she wouldn't be so openly depressed. Azusa panics at the thought of letting her emotions show, but Ritsu insists she can always ask for his help. Azusa, however, admits solemnly that what she's dealing with isn't something she can really ask help for. Miho notices how troubled Azusa looks and guesses aloud that it has something to do with Yu. Azusa panics, and Ritsu, who believes Miho hit the mark, cheerfully asks if he can tag along, supporting Miho's suggestion that they confront Yu together. In desperation, Azusa agrees to tell them what happened. She finally admits that she saw Yu with another girl in town. Miho reassures Azusa that Yu would have told her if he had a girlfriend. Ritsu seizes the opportunity to tease Azusa about how bothered she is by Yu's love life. Azusa insists she's only concerned because Yu is her junior. Miho then asks if Azusa is free during the weekend, saying she really wants to go to the spa with her. When Azusa agrees, Miho immediately messages Yu that they're all going to the spa with Azusa. During lunch, Ritsu and Azusa decide to eat together. Ritsu expresses his relief that Azusa still makes time for him and hasn't completely abandoned her peers for her junior. This flusters Azusa, and Ritsu chuckles at her reaction. When Azusa questions him, he decides not to answer and instead distracts her with the latest office gossip about their coworkers. Yu passes by as he is walking and notices how happy Azusa looks while listening to Ritsu's stories. A dark feeling settles over him and he continues walking, only to suddenly feel too bothered to ignore it. He decides to run back. However, as he turns the corner, he nearly bumps into Ritsu. Ritsu notices his ID and immediately recognizes him as Yu. He smiles, happy to finally meet Azusa's favorite junior. Before walking off, he tells Yu to take care of his little Azusa, making Yu freeze at the affectionate way he refers to her. Ritsu then turns back slightly and informs Yu that he'll be joining them for the spa day. When the spa day arrives, Miho spots Azusa and immediately points out that Azusa's outfit looks sexy. This flusters Azusa since it's far less revealing than the main outfit. Miho insists that this has a different kind of appeal, even with Azusa being fully covered. Ritsu suddenly butts in on their conversation and casually mentions that Yu has been there the entire time. The girls turn and see Yu blushing on the bench. He explains that he arrived 15 minutes early because Azusa always reminds him to be early since he's under her. Azusa panics internally, wondering if he overheard anything embarrassing. They begin their walk toward the spa. Yu checks his phone to make sure they're going in the right direction, and Ritsu seizes the moment to trick Yu into admitting that Azusa is cute. When Yu accidentally agrees, he becomes flustered and embarrassed, which only makes Ritsu smile knowingly. Yu puts some distance between them, but Ritsu pretends to be hurt, asking if Yu actually thinks Azusa isn't cute. This makes Yu blurt out that Azusa is cute out loud. The girls then turn around and tell the boys to hurry up since they're already nearing the entrance. Yu resumes walking beside Ritsu with a frustrated, exhausted expression. Ritsu suddenly points out that Yu and Azusa are actually pretty similar, which confuses Yu. Azusa glances back at them, and Ritsu immediately announces that Yu told him he thinks Azusa looks cute today. Panicking, Yu blurts out that he meant to say that her outfit suits her. Azusa accepts the compliment, while Ritsu and Miho seize the opportunity to tease Yu about his wording. Once they enter the building, Azusa looks visibly pleased with how spacious and relaxing everything appears. She tells Miho that she wants to try the stone sauna first. Ritsu asks Yu what he plans to try, and Yu admits he'll be going to the sauna. Just as Ritsu is about to say what he'll do, he gets a work call and steps away. Azusa approaches Yu and quietly whispers that this spa has hair straighteners, so he can enjoy the bath without worrying about his hair turning wavy. Yu looks at her, surprised she remembered something so specific about him. Miho calls Azusa over, so she hurries to catch up, leaving Yu blushing and embarrassed. In the stone sauna, since it's Azusa's first time, she's shocked by how hot it is. Miho explains that it's a relaxing kind of heat and encourages Azusa to use the moment to clear her mind and just enjoy it. Slowly, Azusa's body and mind begin to relax. But just as she does, the image of Yu with a girl suddenly flashes into her mind, making it impossible for her to calm down again. She sits up and asks Miho if there's any spa treatment that can help her empty her mind. Meanwhile, Yu is in a regular sauna thinking about Azusa. He remembers how affectionately Ritsu refers to her, which bothers him more than he wants to admit. He doesn't understand why Ritsu keeps teasing him, or why the two of them seem so close. He tries to shake off the thoughts, telling himself it isn't his place since he's only Azusa's junior. Azusa and Miho eventually move on to get massages. Azusa finds the experience surprisingly painful instead of relaxing. The masseuse offers to use less pressure, but Azusa, not wanting to seem weak, insists on more pressure. She ends up screaming in pain, loud enough that even Ritsu, who has just finished his call, hears her. At the baths, Miho asks Azusa how the massage was. Azusa blissfully replies that it was amazing and that she couldn't think of anything at all. Miho smiles knowingly and points out how bothered Azusa still is about seeing Yu with another girl. Azusa groans at being reminded and even tears up a little, admitting she doesn't understand why she cares so much. Miho suggests that Azusa should just ask Yu about it directly, reminding her that they're outside of work and she doesn't have to worry about being his senior. Later that evening, Azusa finds Yu outside enjoying the breeze. He invites her for a walk, and they decide to stroll around the property. They get flustered when they overhear a couple being affectionate, so they quickly move to another part of the grounds. In a quieter area, Azusa accidentally trips, but Yu catches her. They break apart quickly, both about to say something, only for their nerves to get the better of them. Yu suggests heading back, but Azusa insists he go ahead since she wants to cool off a little longer. Ritsu watches them discreetly and realizes that unless someone steps in, their relationship will never move forward. Yu decides to buy a drink for Azusa, but doesn't know which one she likes. Ritsu suddenly presses the button for cafe latte and explains that it's Azusa's favorite. He then asks if Yu dislikes him because he seems bothered by how close he is with Azusa. Yu denies it and says he's actually relieved Azusa has someone at work she can be happy around. He explains that many in their department think Azusa is scary and don't try to understand her, so he's grateful that Azusa has Ritsu. Ritsu is surprised by his answer. He then tells Yu that he actually likes Azusa more than a friend. He leaves Yu with that thought, and Yu finds himself thinking about Azusa even more. Later at dinner, Azusa decides to drink heavily, and Yu ends up drinking a lot too. When Yu finally gets drunk, Azusa notices him slumped over and immediately starts accusing the others of getting him drunk. Ritsu teases her for being overly protective, and Azusa snaps that she's allowed to dote on him because Yu is her precious junior. Something in Yu snaps at that, and he angrily declares that he doesn't want to be Azusa's junior forever. Miho and Ritsu tense up, hoping a confession is coming, but Azusa suddenly stands and complains that she doesn't want that either. She begins crying, insisting she worked so hard to be a good superior. As she wails, Miho apologizes repeatedly to the other customers in the dining area. Once Yu and Azusa sober up a little, they're brought outside to rest. Ritsu and Miho decide to go to the baths, and Miho invites Ritsu to the women's outdoor bath. Yu looks confused since the baths are separated by gender, yet Miho is treating Ritsu like she belongs in the women's section. Yu is even more shocked when both Miho and Ritsu enter the female entrance of the bathhouse and later emerge together in pink robes. It turns out Ritsu was a girl all along, and she apologizes to Yu for misleading him into thinking she had romantic feelings for Azusa. She explains she only wanted him to confront and accept his own feelings sooner. Miho hands him an ice cream as the three girls happily chat among themselves. Yu stares at Ritsu, finally processing that she is female, and his mind short-circuits, causing him to faint. When Yu returns home, his sister notices his flushed face and asks who he's been drinking with. He doesn't answer since he's already passed out on his bed. One morning, the planning department goes about business as usual, but Kosuke arrives a little later than usual. The girls in the planning department soon notice Yu isn't around. Azusa notices that it's odd since Yu is always early, but convinces herself not to worry since his shift hasn't started yet. Suddenly, her phone chimes and she sees that Yu has messaged her. He says he hasn't been feeling well, so he wants to visit the doctor in the morning. He promises to be back for the afternoon meeting. Azusa gets frustrated, calling him an idiot since he refuses to rest. During lunch, Miho and Ritsu approach her. Azusa finds it surprising how close the two seem. Miho explains that after their spa trip, they became best friends. Both happily reminisce about how wonderful it felt to relax in the bath, eat ice cream, and chat, so they've been hanging out more often. Azusa stares at them, amazed at how quickly people with good communication skills can become friends. Ritsu and Miho then realize Yu is missing. Azusa explains that he's taking the day off because he got sick. Ritsu suggests that this is the perfect opportunity for Azusa to visit him tomorrow. Azusa is startled by the suggestion, worrying she might trouble Yu by suddenly showing up. Miho reassures her that Yu would actually be thrilled to see someone he respects so much. Azusa brightens at the idea, but then immediately worries again because she doesn't know Yu's address and that Yu's girlfriend might be there. Miho tells her she knows where he lives and confidently adds that she's sure Yu doesn't have a girlfriend. Ritsu gives her a gentle push by asking if Azusa isn't worried about Yu at all because it is cold if she won't visit him. Azusa insists that she is worried, which Ritsu and Miho take as confirmation that she will visit him. The next day, Azusa finds herself standing outside Yu's house. She immediately begins to regret coming, convinced she's only going to burden him. She tells herself that all she needs to do is drop off her get-well gift and head home. A voice speaks up behind her, and Azusa turns and sees Yuki. She recognizes her as the girl she saw in the shopping district. Yuki cheerfully asks if Azusa is there to see her older brother. Azusa realizes she was mistaken. Yuki isn't Yu's girlfriend, but his little sister. Yuki then asks if Azusa happens to be Yu's girlfriend, sending Azusa into a panic. Yu eventually answers the door wearing a face mask and is shocked to find Azusa standing beside Yuki. Yuki tries to invite Azusa in, but Yu hurriedly asks them to wait and closes the door. A moment later, he reemerges and finally invites the two inside. Azusa steps in and looks around the apartment, noticing some of Yu's trinkets displayed. Yuki properly introduces herself as Yu's younger sister, and Azusa nervously hands over her business card, explaining that she is Yu's mentor. Yu tells Azusa she doesn't need to be so formal with Yuki. Yuki then whispers to him that he's lucky to have such a pretty mentor. Yu directs Azusa to the couch and asks if barley tea is okay with her. Azusa insists he should go back to resting and not worry about her, but Yu assures her he's fine. Azusa relaxes a little at his words, just as Yuki notices the variety of ingredients Azusa brought and immediately announces that she'll cook a delicious meal for her brother. Yu panics, and Azusa offers to help as well. The girls move to the kitchen while Yu stays on the couch. Azusa suggests they start with the apple, and Yuki is about to wash it with dishwashing soap when Yu thankfully warns her not to. Azusa then holds the knife the wrong way, shocking Yu even more. Yuki is about to mention that she thought Azusa was his girlfriend, but Yu cuts her off. The siblings squabble while Azusa quietly finishes preparing the apple. When Yuki sees it, she calls it cute and immediately grabs a mallet to prepare something else, but Yu insists on taking over the rest of the preparations himself. The girls allow it, looking disappointed. When Yu approaches the chopping board, he notices that Azusa has tried to shape the apple into a rabbit. Azusa proudly explains that she practiced, remembering Yu's words about how he'd find it sweet if someone he likes practiced cooking for him. Her face reddens at the memory, and she begs him to forget she ever said that. A little while later, they return to the living room with a big bowl of porridge. Yu thanks Azusa for the food, but she insists he did all the real work. Yu smiles at the uneven, poorly cut apple. Yuki plops down beside him and urges Azusa to sit on his other side. Azusa tries to decline, but eventually gives in when they make space for her. With everyone seated, Yuki announces that they should start eating, and Yu removes his mask so he can dig in. He takes a bite of the apple first and happily exclaims that it's really good, which makes Azusa light up. Yuki teases him, saying you shouldn't cry just because Azusa peeled the apple for him. When Yu starts to protest, Yuki tells Azusa that Yu tends to cry easily when he's moved by something. She even mentions that Yu was crying the other day because of a game. Azusa perks up and asks which game it was. Yu smiles at her and says it was the one they talked about the other day. They begin chatting about it, going on about how great gaming can be. Yuki observes how naturally they talk. Azusa suddenly realizes that Yuki might be bored since she doesn't understand any of the gaming talk. Yuki reassures her that it's fine and even adds that Yu looks much happier since Azusa arrived. Yu and Yuki start bickering again, and Azusa smiles at their sibling dynamic. Out of nowhere, Yuki suggests showing Azusa Yu's photo albums. To Yu's surprise, Azusa immediately agrees. She brings out several albums and starts with the childhood ones, showing Yu when he was younger. Azusa fondly comments that even back then, Yu was already so cute. Yu immediately catches her wording, noting that she just implied she finds him cute now as well. Azusa flushes red as the realization hits her. Yuki gently calms her down and they continue browsing the photos. Azusa then notices that in many photos, Yu is surrounded by lots of friends. They move on to his middle school album, and Azusa smiles when she sees that Yu used to play soccer. They flip through more pages, seeing Yu with various people doing different activities. But once they reach his college album, Azusa realizes there are many things she still doesn't know about him. Yu then notices her empty glass, and Azusa realizes she stayed longer than she intended. Yuki suddenly offers to run out and buy more drinks so Azusa can stay longer. When Yuki heads out, the room becomes awkwardly quiet. Yu decides to break the silence by bringing up the spa day. He apologizes for Miho's sudden suggestion since he assumes Azusa only agreed out of politeness. Azusa admits that she had fun and mentions that Ritsu suggested they should all go together again. Yu looks surprised and says he feels bad about how he acted in front of everyone when he was drunk. Azusa tells him that she acted out too. A sudden memory of her drunken outburst hits her and she becomes embarrassed. Yu insists that he was the one in the wrong. This makes Azusa stand and blurt out that everything was his fault, especially since he made her act strange after she saw him with Yuki at the shopping district the other day because she had thought Yuki was his girlfriend. Yu blinks up at her and asks why she would feel odd if he had a girlfriend. Azusa freezes, realizing it is a strange thing to be bothered by. Yu realizes how bold his question was and quickly apologizes. To ease the tension, he decides to prepare some coffee. He begins brewing a fresh batch using a drip brewer, which he explains is his newest purchase. He admits he'd been wanting to try brewing his own coffee, though this is the first time he's actually had the chance to use it. When he finishes, he pours a cup for each of them, making sure to add milk and sugar to Azusa's. Azusa notices that Yu is using the mug that matches hers. Yu sheepishly admits that he really likes the design. She suddenly apologizes, stating she's grateful he stepped in for her despite the fact that she was the one who broke one of the mugs in the first place. Yu tries to reassure her, saying she has nothing to apologize for since she helped him out a lot that day. Azusa recalls something from when she was younger. She was elected class president even though she wasn't confident about it. During PE, she struggled to get her classmates to settle down while they waited for their teacher. They became so rowdy that one of the girls got hit by a stray ball and started crying, causing everyone to panic. Not knowing what else to do, Azusa raised her voice and scolded them for not listening to her. Azusa then confesses to Yu that she has always been terrible at interacting with people. She sometimes scares others without meaning to, but that also means they would avoid her, which made things easier for her. However, once Yu became her junior, she stopped thinking that way. She reveals that she really tried hard to find ways to get along with him. She blames herself for running away from socializing, but Yu gently tells her that she was simply doing her best. Azusa feels her cheeks warm as she thanks him, embarrassed that she opened up so much. Yu urges her to keep talking because he wants to learn more about her, but he suddenly breaks into a coughing fit. Azusa immediately insists that he go back to bed and sleep with a firm glare to make her point clear. Yu eventually lies down, but he struggles to fall asleep. Azusa teases him and even offers to sing him a lullaby. Yu surprisingly agrees, catching her off guard since she only meant it as a joke. Still, she decides to indulge him just this once and sits beside his mattress. She softly begins to sing, and Yu closes his eyes with a small smile. However, she stops midway, gets embarrassed, then throws the blanket over his face and orders him to sleep. Yu peeks out at her and sees her quietly arranging his paperwork. Yu eventually drifts off, and Azusa remains by his side. She notices a single strand of gray hair and toys with it before gently taking his hand in hers. She smiles at his sleeping face and at how their hands live together. Yu wakes up to find Azusa asleep next to him, their hands still intertwined. A text from Yuki buzzes on his phone, waking Azusa. Realizing she fell asleep there, she apologizes and grows flustered when she sees their hands. Yu thanks her for cleaning his room, admitting he would have tidied up if he knew she was coming. He also thanks her for holding his hand while he slept, crediting her for his good nap. Suddenly emboldened, Azusa blurts out that she wants Yu to tell her more about himself. She rambles about wanting to know his favorite foods, shoe size, and all kinds of random details. Noticing how panicked she's getting, Yu calmly assures her that he will, and that he also wants to learn everything about her. He then suggests that they become friends, and Azusa brightens at the idea. Just to be sure, she asks if it's okay for them to eat lunch together, go out for drinks, and if she can send him random photos of cats. Yu readily agrees to all of it, smiling at how eager she is about their new relationship. They eventually say goodbye when Yuki returns home. Yuki excitedly talks about taking cooking classes with Azusa, surprising Yu since he had no idea they made plans. Before leaving, Azusa invites Yu out for lunch as friends sometime. When she closes the door, Yuki immediately asks Yu if he got rejected, forcing him to explain that they decided to start seeing each other as friends rather than as senior and junior. During lunch, as Azusa happily munches on her meal, she texts Yu. She's practically glowing with good energy, something Ritsu and Miho pick up on instantly. Miho cheekily asks if she's chatting with Yu. Ritsu joins in on teasing her, and they finally sit down to talk and eat. Azusa insists she's only being a good friend to Yu and simply responding to his messages. She admits she's never really had a proper friend before, so she's worried about messing it up. Ritsu and Miho try to hold back their laughter, which only makes Azusa more embarrassed. Miho brings up that Yu's birthday is coming up next month. Azusa suddenly remembers and tells Miho that she genuinely wants to celebrate it since she's never celebrated someone's birthday before. Ritsu suggests they celebrate during the company's monthly group birthday party. Miho teases that Azusa will surely give you a present, making Azusa fall deep into thought. After lunch, Ritsu and Miho chat about Yu and Azusa's budding relationship. Miho complains about how slow they're going but remains positive about the progress. Ritsu says she's sure Yu is already aware of his feelings, but Azusa is still clueless. The next day, Azusa tells Yu about the company's birthday celebration, and Yu says he'd like to attend to celebrate his birthday. He asks if they can go together, and Azusa agrees, proudly declaring that she intends to celebrate his birthday to the fullest. She is shy halfway through and tells Yu they should have lunch together. Yu agrees, and Azusa happily returns to work. Yu heads back as well, but Miho intercepts him to tease him about how things are going with Azusa. Yu is embarrassed and confused by her teasing. Miho cheekily asks whether he's truly okay with just staying friends with Azusa, but after seeing the lost expression on his face, she decides to leave him alone. During their lunch, Yu enjoys the restaurant's special while Azusa struggles to ask him what he wants for his birthday gift. She ends up making up a story telling him that a female acquaintance recently came to her for advice because she doesn't know what to give a male friend. Yu thinks about it, but admits he wouldn't really know what kind of gift a guy typically wants from a girl. Azusa then asks what he would personally like instead. Yu muses that a pair of gloves would be nice. Azusa considers the idea, but wonders what his hand size is. Her mind drifts back to the time she held his hand while he was asleep. She instantly turns bright red and suddenly screams in embarrassment, alarming everyone around her. After work, she and Ritsu go shopping for gloves. Azusa quickly realizes she forgot to ask Yu if he prefers a certain color or material. Ritsu teases her for overthinking but suggests they simply ask a salesperson for recommendations. Azusa pales at the idea, and Ritsu realizes it's because she wants the chance to pick something out herself. Azusa admits she's right but says she's not confident in her ability to choose a gift. She remembers when she was a child, she overheard some girls discussing an upcoming birthday. The celebrant's friend suggested throwing a party and inviting the whole class. The celebrant agreed but admitted she was scared of Azusa and worried that Azusa would give her a weird gift. Ritsu reassures her and says she doesn't need to worry since Yu will appreciate anything she chooses. He adds that a friend who doesn't like anything a friend gives them isn't a true friend to begin with. Even if someone doesn't personally love a gift, receiving something from a friend is still meaningful. The little pep talk is exactly what Azusa needed to hear, and she immediately thanks Ritsu. Her eyes then land on a pair of gloves with paw pad markings on the palms. She tries them on and instantly falls in love with them. One evening, Yu receives a call from Yuki. She asks him what kind of birthday present he wants, but Yu refuses to tell her, knowing she'll demand something extravagant in return. Yuki then asks if he's planning to go on a birthday date with Azusa. Yu denies it, explaining that he'll be celebrating his birthday with her at the company's monthly birthday party. Yuki groans and complains that he's being a suck-up again, just like when he was a kid. Yu recalls that on that birthday, he was pressured by his friends to say which present he liked best. He told them that he loved everyone's gift. Two of his female friends were unsatisfied with his answer and ended up snubbing him. Yu explains to Yuki that, as a kid, he didn't really have a choice but to say that. Yuki agrees but tells him that he shouldn't try to be nice to everyone, because someone is bound to get hurt. The next day, Miho is surprised to learn that Azusa doesn't want Yu to find out she's helping with the birthday party. Azusa explains that she doesn't want Yu to worry about her. Ritsu enters the storeroom with snacks and meat buns. The girls light up at the sight of the food, and Ritsu reminds them that they only have 2 days left to prepare for the birthday party. The next day, he invites Azusa to lunch, but Azusa suddenly panics and tells him she's busy and that he should eat without her. Their office mates begin gossiping about her strange behavior since Azusa is usually not the type to volunteer for company events. Hakimi grows suspicious and checks the list of next month's birthday celebrants and notices Yu is on the list. Azusa spends her whole lunch break working on the decorations for tomorrow's party. Ritsu feels confident that they will finish everything today and hands Azusa the list of celebrants. Azusa spots Usa, their senior, on the list. Ritsu recalls how she took care of both of them when they were new. Azusa asks if Ritsu remembers what Usa likes to eat. Ritsu lists most of her favorite foods, and Azusa immediately decides to call the caterers to check if they can add those items. But when Azusa stands up, she accidentally knocks over a bucket of paint, completely ruining the birthday banner. Everyone pales as Azusa wonders aloud if she can fix the problem by working tonight. Ritsu apologizes because she has a company dinner she absolutely cannot miss. Miho has the same issue. Azusa insists they go ahead with their plans, telling them it was her mistake and they shouldn't take responsibility. Ritsu smiles and tells her they'll do their best to help before lunch break ends. At the end of the day, Yu suggests that they walk to the station together, but Azusa claims she needs to work overtime. Yu is surprised and immediately offers to help. Azusa refuses, insisting she can't let Yu work overtime on her behalf. Azusa stays firm, urging him to go home and rest. Not wanting to argue, Yu eventually leaves. Once he's out of sight, Azusa also stands up to continue working on the party preparations, not realizing that Yu accidentally left his train pass behind. She looks at the mess she made earlier and starts getting ready to fix it, only to be surprised when she hears Yu's voice asking what she's doing. Startled, she asks why Yu is still there. He explains that he forgot his train card on his desk and noticed the storeroom lights were on. Azusa tries to block his view of the banner, but Yu apologizes and admits that he already saw everything. Realizing the preparations are for tomorrow's party, he offers to help, even though Azusa insists she can't let him work for his own birthday celebration. Looking over the design, Yu comments that it's interesting and says they can build on it instead of starting from scratch. The more they add paint, the better it begins to look. Yu mentions that this feels nostalgic since it reminds him of school festivals. While they work, Azusa accidentally smudges some paint on her cheek. Yu notices and points it out. He hands her his towel, and their hands brush, lingering just long enough for the two of them to search each other's eyes. After a few hours, they finish the poster and are relieved that it turned out even better than the original design. Azusa admits she wants to enjoy tomorrow and celebrate Yu's birthday, but she also hopes everyone else will enjoy the party as well. That night, she struggles to fall asleep from excitement. She knows she'll have to face a huge hurdle the next day by giving Yu his birthday gift. When she finally dozes off, morning arrives before she knows it. At the party, everyone is enjoying themselves thanks to how well-planned everything is. Yu and the others are surprised when they step inside. The planning division notes that this month's party feels more put together than usual. Kasuke learns that Azusa volunteered for the event, which he finds very out of character. He pales when Azusa suddenly offers him a drink, afraid she might scold him again, but he accepts it politely. Azusa's friends immediately notice how stiff and nervous she is while serving guests, but they can't help smiling at how hard she's trying to be a good hostess. Miho quietly tells Yu that Azusa is doing all of this for him. Yu admits he already knows. He says that Azusa, despite being awkward, is actually very warm and kind. He hopes that someday more people will understand that about her. Ritsu smiles at his words and asks whether he feels that way because he's friends with Azusa. Yu blinks, confused by her implication. Meanwhile, Akemi receives a constant stream of compliments about the party. Even the signboard gets a lot of praise. Akemi accepts all the credit without mentioning that Azusa and the other volunteers were the ones who did most of the work. Azusa approaches her and asks if there's anything more she can help with. Irritated, Akemi tells her to just enjoy herself. Azusa hesitates since there's still so much serving to be done. Akemi loses patience and hits a tower of boxes out of spite. The boxes wobble and nearly fall on her, but Azusa immediately pushes her out of the way. Yu rushes over and notices that Azusa scraped her hand in the process. He brings her to a private room and bandages her up, telling her to be more careful because she always throws herself into danger for others. Azusa stubbornly brushes it off, but Yu insists she needs to take better care of herself. She explains that she worked hard, especially yesterday and today, because she wanted to celebrate Yu's birthday properly. Yu's about to tell her something, but Akemi barges in to check on Azusa. She apologizes for her earlier behavior and tells Yu that he needs to get on stage so everyone can greet him. Azusa notices the discomfort on Yu's face. She gently teases him, and the two return to the party together. Yu joins the other celebrants on stage while everyone claps and takes photos. Once the pictures are done, he's immediately surrounded by girls trying to hand him gifts. His friends are shocked by his popularity. Azusa begins to worry since she feels her gift will pale in comparison. Miho insists that she still give it, with Ritsu backing her up. So Azusa gathers her courage. She approaches Yu and timidly asks the girls if they can give her 5 minutes alone with him. The girls understand instantly and step aside, giving Azusa space. Nervously, she hands him her gift. Yu opens the bag and finds a pair of gloves with paw pads. Azusa turns bright red and hurriedly explains in her dialect how she chose the present. She admits she didn't know what kind of gloves he preferred, so she picked something she personally liked and found cute. Yu immediately puts them on to show how much he loves them. Azusa can't help touching his gloved hand, happy with how soft it feels. She panics again, worried that her gift might not measure up to the others, but Yu gently takes her hand. Holding both of her hands, he tells her that receiving a gift from her makes him really happy. Then they both realize they're standing in public holding hands. Yu quickly lets go and apologizes. Then, gathering his courage, he tells her that his feelings for her go beyond friendship.